to lead us. Yes, as always, Comrade Clark, I want to invite you to the podium. Can we all stand as we sing the national song? My Guyana El Dorado, it's in the program.
All my hopes and aspirations, all my longing would be everlasting comfort, and the fleeting is my Guyana times unfolding, forever and destiny. All the years that lost for you, but the longing of my glory, all the long night is arise, arise, I am glorious, what will I sing of your God?
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Thank you, Comrade Oscar Clark. Forgive me for not recognizing you before. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now like to recognize the leader of the opposition, Comrade Aubrey C. Norton, and invite him to the podium to make his remarks. Can we all stand as the leader makes his way to the podium?
Good morning. Be seated. I'm chairman of the party and the session. I'm the general secretary of our party, members of the central executive of our party, members of parliament, our party elders. I see Comrade Hamilton Green. I see Comrade Oscar Clark. I wish to recognize them. I want to also on this occasion recognize the police force band that yearly will come and help us to punctuate this occasion with their music. And I do know that our town leader, LFS Burnham, pay careful attention to music and all the bands, including the Guyana Defense Force. So I want to say a special thank you. The next group I want to thank is the LFS Burnham Centennial Committee headed by Comrade Vincent Alexander, a former vice chairman of this party and a former head of the YSM, as it was called in those days. Friends, by any measure, this is an important occasion. We are here to commemorate the life of Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham. We are here to commemorate his achievements, and they are many. It is meet and right that we should do so. Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham was a man of powerful intellect, a consummate politician and leader, an eloquent advocate for the rights of the Chinese people, a tireless champion for the cause of the downtrodden, and a visionary and purposeful leader of our party. I dare say, a leader that no one after him will match in a hurry. He was exceptional. He sought to build a country which was truly independent. He sought to build a country that was truly united. A country that must be able to feed itself, culturally proficient. A country in which the youth and women had equal opportunity to fulfill their dreams and ambitions. As leader of our party and an independent nation, the founder leader was conscious of the need to protect and secure the rights of all Ghanaians, including minorities. But he also excelled in the external realm. In the area of foreign policy, the founder leader's star shone exceptionally bright. Soon after we became an independent nation, he, as the first foreign minister of Ghana, built the structure of our foreign relations. And I must admit, that structure has lasted until today. This efficient structure, based on overseas missions and a headquarters manned by efficient officers, protected this nation against the aggression of Venezuela and Suriname. He led the movement to integration in the region. I remember vividly him saying, integrate or perish. He took the country into and made it a leading member of the non-aligned movement, forged important ties with the Commonwealth, recognized Cuba and China when it was most dangerous to do so, and give the nation an imprimatur of success in global affairs. At the time of his demise, Ghana was a highly respected state, which was praised for the role it played in international space, as well as for its ideas on national development. Ghana was praised for its role in the African liberation movement. I wish to submit that founder leader's success had a lot to do with the power of his intellect, as well as with his ability to foster and promote an environment in which the talent of the party could flower and prosper. We in this party do not give the founder leader of ourselves the deserved credit for attracting and promoting the best political talent in the history of this country. And I think it is unquestionable. I ask, which other party has fielded such a galaxy of talent as those possessed by Sir Sridhar Ramphal, Dr. Mohammed Shahabadin, Haslin Paris, Carl Greenwich, Hubert Jack, Winifred Gaskin, Cicely Bay, Rolf Farley, Cameron Ramsuru, Hamilton Green, and Shirley Fielding, among many others. This was an outstanding group of men and women who, with the leadership of the founder leader, produced the ideas and plans which helped to build a strong and vibrant state. I wish to submit to you that we can learn and improve our work by studying the lives of these comrades. I have been fortunate to study the legacy of this party and its outstanding members, especially that of our founder leader. I have concluded that the success of the party has a lot to do with the honesty of debate in its various forums, recognizing the interests of the party takes precedence over personal interests, and promoting the unity of the party in times of difficulty and challenges. A political party, as the life of the founder leader has demonstrated, is not created to promote the personal interests of its members, but to serve the interests of the people of the country and our party. Personal ambitions can be, and often is, subversive of the purpose and ideals of a political party. We have inherited a strong party despite the problems we have faced in recent years. We shall and must overcome these problems. But I wish to urge you who are here today that it is incumbent upon our members, especially our senior members, that we understand the significance and importance of the legacy of the party, including its political culture. The PNC was created in a particular set of circumstances which had shaped its evolution. Between 1920 and the 1930s, the British colonial administration fiddled with the demographics of this country. By 1924, as a result of immigration from India, one ethnic group surpassed that which had been here from the time of slavery and which had been in the majority until then. The new majority, led by one J.A. Locke, journeyed to Britain and proposed that an Indian colony be established in Guyana. Fortunately, this did not come to pass. But the messing around with the demographics of this nation has had serious implications for its political and economic development. When the PPP was formed, because it relied on a greater ethnic base, it swept away all previously existing political organization. I hear speak here of the PPP of LFS Burnham and Cherry Jagger. The overwhelming victory of the PPP in 1953 meant that it had an unmatched freedom to implement what J.A. Locke was frustrated from achieving. I asked the second question, what would have happened to this country if from the 1950s the PPP had the right to govern us, given its penchant for racism and discrimination? Fortunately, the founder leader created the PNC, which checked the PPP runaway trail. I'm the firm belief that it was his experience with the racial proclivities of the PPP that the founder leader made it an article of faith that our party must be multiracial and serve all the people of Guyana. We want to reiterate that position that we will serve all the people of Guyana. So you see, the PNC was created with a specific purpose. It was to promote ethnic unity, cause rapid development, strengthen the cultural roots of the nation, and create the environment in which we can become a unified, prosperous, and dynamic nation. I want to issue a warning. The PNC can only be an instrument for progress and unity if it remains a united and cohesive unit as the founder leader intended it to be. To do otherwise would be to sacrifice the precious legacy of our great party. The founder leader was a man of varied talents and great intellectual and cultural strengths. But what I have most admired in him, and I'm sure most of you do too, is his patience, courage, and creativity in the face of great trials. I always remember founder leaders saying to us in the YSM, when everybody is annoyed and making noise, be patient. When you make decisions, it will impact. And so be patient, do the things that will allow you to succeed. The unexampled trials of the global recession of the 80s reduced our economy to one of the lowest levels. And the global financial institutions, such as the World Bank and the IMF, rushed in to dismantle the state the PNC had created. It was a testing time, and I'm sure most of you, it was a testing time. I'm sure most of you will remember the challenges of those times, as I do. But the founder leader of the PNC stuck to their guns and we came true. And again, we will come true. I invite you to look at the last video of the press conference given by the founder leader after the CARICOM summit in Trinidad in 1983. It is available on YouTube. He pointed out that after years of recession, the economy had started to grow again. But the story that I also draw inspiration from occurred in the 60s. I was a child then, but my parents and colleagues and the history books were shining like a lamp at our feet, so we understand the period. Let me recall, the PNC was trounced at the elections in 1961, and I'm sure Comrade Hamilton Green will never forget that election because the PPP cheated him out of the seat in Houston and never held the by-elections mandated by the courts. Sometimes people forget that as far back as then, you've had that behavior from the people. The 1961 defeat had a great psychological effect on our party. Comrades were confused, some disillusioned, but the founder leader was magnificent in defeat. I'm told that he assembled the supporters of Board Green and asked them to watch with him for 1 hour, and they did. But in spite of the determination of the founder leader to move ahead, the PPP propaganda was very pervasive, and soon many were wondering if the PPP would ever be defeated again, given the prevailing demographics. The PPP certainly behaved as though it could not be defeated. You see that again now. Its triumphalism was historic. I hope they would have learned some lessons from local government. Please note that there are similar prevailing sentiments around that given our oil wealth and manner in which Barajaki and company are scattering the nation's bounty as if they will be in government forever. I say to you, they wouldn't. I do not subscribe to such a hopeless prognosis. I assert the hope and belief that the PPP can and will be defeated. The PPP has never run successful government. They all end in failure or riots. 1961, 1964, 1997, and 2001. I concede that their background make them good in opposition, but they have never mastered the art of government. Already, they are undermining the economy by excessive borrowing and ignoring the plight of the poor and downtrodden. Public services have been deserted by the PPP and must confront the vagaries of an existence which is characterized by twin problems of low salaries and rising inflation. Corruption is as usual in the PPP has reared its ugly head. Racism is rife. Inequality gets worse every day, and the average person can tell you that this government has lost its way. Let us now pay attention to the legacy of the founder leader and the party he led. It is incumbent that we pay attention to that legacy. Let us unite and be patient and creative. I believe we will succeed. We have beaten the PPP before, and they are laying the foundation for their own destruction. We can move forward with confidence given the legacy of the founder leader and our great party. Victory too can be ours. I hope the Centennial Committee will move beyond the emotional satisfaction of this exercise and take the right measures and document the outstanding achievements of Linden Falls Samson Burnham. I wish to say thank you all for being here, and we have a great legacy to protect. We have a great leader to emulate. I refer here to our own founder leader, Linden Falls Samson Burnham.
Thank you, Colonel Leader. Can we put our hands together once again? Please sit your seat. We will now have a musical rendition by the Guyana Police Office. Thank you. Thanks to the Guyana Police Force for the glorious rendition. We will now move into the laying of the floral tributes, and so I'd like to invite to the podium Ms. Carol Smith Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. We will begin the laying of these floral tributes by calling on Dr. Richard Van Westchild, son-in-law of our founder leader, to lay on behalf of the family. Followed by our leader, Mr. Aubrey Compton Norton, member of Parliament. The General Secretary is Dawn Hastings, member of Parliament, will represent the central executive of our party. national chairperson of the Women's Arm of the Great Party. She will be followed by Mr. Kimbe Copeland, national chair acting for the Dining Student Movement. He will be followed by Mr. Paul Clark, representing the Georgetown District. Mr. Clayton Hines will represent the LFS Burnham Foundation. Followed by the party's elder and former Prime Minister, former General Secretary, former Mayor of the City of Georgetown, Mr. Hamilton Green. Mr. Carl Greenwich, former Minister of Finance, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, represents our past leader, Mr. Robert Morley. He will be followed by his worship, the Mayor-elect, the City of Georgetown. Mr. Alfred Neto. Mr. Neto will be followed by executive member of the Central Executive of the Party representing the North American region, Mr. Derek Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence will be followed by Ms. Martha Proferio from Region Number 1.
All right. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. You're watching their live wreath-laying ceremony in remembrance of the founder leader of the PPP and also the founder leader of the People's National Congress. I, of course, deliberately mention the founder leader of the PPP because a lot of people, especially our young people, are not aware. Well, there are some of them who are, I suspect, but a lot of the PPP supporters as well do not know that Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham was one of the founders. Himself and Chetty Jagan and a couple others formed the People's Progressive Party. And after the split, Burnham had his own PPP for 1 year. And he took away most of the big wigs of the PPP with him. And then after 1 year, the People's National Congress was formed. The PPP, that is, was renamed the PNC. in studio with me very early this morning is no stranger to you guys, Lemon. Lemon, if you pull your chair a little closer to the microphone. Um,
Yes, good morning, everybody.
yeah. So tell us how as we were watching this event here, the Botanical Gardens in Georgetown, Guyana, 38 years. Um, Burnham, 38 years ago, Forbes Burnham, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, the executive president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, died on this day. What was your reflection, your mood like when you heard of the news of Forbes Burnham
Well,
passing away?
I was very sad to hear, the passing of one of the greatest leader Guyana ever had, and that was a sad day for Guyana. From that day on, the try the country try to move on, but since the PP take over, it started going downwards. So we hope the people in the PNC try to bring back those kind of standards to the party and not fighting against each other.
Uh, what exactly? Because when Burnham died, when President Burnham died, I was very little. I was a little boy, and I remember hearing on the radio that Forbes Burnham, President Forbes Burnham, died, and we had a little green radio, which was everything to us as little kids. It was our um, boombox, it was our TV, it was everything, and it's like you literally sat there and you listened to the radio, but it was like you were watching TV.
Yes, yes.
And the entire area just went sad. Of course, there were people who were few people who probably were smiling, but the majority of the country went into deep mourning. Uh, what are some of the things you remembered on the President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham?
I remember, when I was small and growing up in Guyana, when Burnham come to, visit where you live or the town you live in, it was like all the young kids run out there, Burnham, look, Burnham, and it was so peaceful. The country was moving along nicely, and I think we really did lose one of the greatest leader of all time in the Guyana and the Caribbean.
What was it like? Because I recalled mass games and these different things.
Yes,
We're seeing Benny, a very close friend of Forbes Burnham. We're seeing her. She is laying that right there. Benny, we should try to have her on the program sometime soon to reflect on the life and death of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. And if you're now joining us, that's Benny Raymond there. She's now walking away after laying the wreath. Burnham brought people together, all Guyanese together, and so many good things that we can talk about Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. But why do you think that there are some who try to project Forbes Burnham, President Burnham, as though he
racist
was a racist?
Burnham was never racist because there were free education from North City University, and a lot of Indians, a lot of black, all races gained from that, to university. And so he wasn't a racist. If he was a racist, he would put it for the black people alone. So I think, those talks are just what Jack Dio and some part Jagon put in the people's head, it's racist. But Burnham was never racist. A lot of Indians were ministers under Burnham.
I'm glad that you've mentioned that part in terms of Forbes Burnham had quite a lot of solid and patriotic Guyanese, including our Indian brothers and sisters who were part of the People's National Congress. They were part of the PNC. And there are many times when whatever it is that Burnham did in the interest of the country, whether it's the restriction of certain goods such as flour and split peas and other items were restricted as a result of what was happening in the world. Oil prices and all different things. And so Burnham had to ensure the leadership that he possessed, and being the president of the country, had to ensure that all Guyanese were able to eat. And so with the restriction of certain items, Burnham surely did get the blessings of his friend, Chelly Jacket.
Yes.
But we still hear the rumor that Burnham banned flour because he was a racist, he didn't like the Indians, which wasn't true at all. How did you feel when you hear all those?
Well, I think that those were just ignorance, because it's not Indian alone use flour. It's not Indian alone use split peas. So those comments is just useless or baseless,
Useless and baseless indeed. If you're now joining us, we are currently broadcasting the wreath laying ceremony at the Botanical Gardens, where Forbes Burnham remains are. And for those of you who have never visited, whenever you are in Guyana,
go and visit there.
Yeah, have you gone there right now? What we're watching at Botanical Garden? Have you gone there, Lemon?
Yes, I went there a couple of times.
What was the feeling like? Because I took my older son there, and just for the sake of the 7 ponds and so forth around that area, just for history and to impart whatever little knowledge that I have about Forbes Burnham, because I grew up as a little boy under Forbes Burnham's presidency. And it is only befitting to share that experience, what it's like. And we now are elders.
Yes.
We can safely, we're older now. And so it is our duty to talk to our young people and to basically wipe out the sort of rumors that are being spread about Forbes Burnham or the leaders of the PNC or Black leaders in Guyana, so to speak. What do you say to your kids whenever the name Burnham pops up in your conversation at home?
Well, I always told my kids Burnham was a very, very good president, and he did some bad, but I mean, every president do.
We want to stick a pin there. That's some bad. I want to hear what Lemon's example is about some bad. We will go right back to the square of the Botanical Gardens and listen to the national song, My Native Land. I'll be back with Lemon.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thanks again, Comrade. Gratitude is the act of recognizing and acknowledging the good things that happen, resulting in a state of appreciation. Today, I would like to express gratitude and appreciation to all those who contributed towards making today's memorial service for our late founder leader, Comrade Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham success. Special thanks to our General Secretary, Comrade Dawn Hastings, Comrade Hazel Pylos, and staff of the PNCR Secretary. Thanks to Comrade Harold Smith Joseph, and last but not least, the kind police force who was graced with such sweet melody. Thank you. We will now conclude today's proceedings. The national anthem. The last stanza of the national anthem. Can we all stand? Thank you, Comrade Joseph, and thank you, everyone. I trust that.
So when we're back here live, it's 55 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we want to thank our team there on the ground for this broadcast. And it's a reflection on the 38 years death anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. 38 years. Lemon, can you imagine? Because for me, I thought that that it was just the other day. But can you believe it's 38 years already?
Well, it seemed like the other day, and 38 years. I don't know where all those years went to, but I can't believe that it's 38 years. It looked like 20 years to me.
It looks like just the other day to me. And let's see some of your comments there. Heather Rowe is saying a man among men, a true giant and visionary. You know, lots of these things that we're seeing. Morning, Radhika Suklal and Denise Williams says they continue to rest in peace. Come at LFS Burnham. Um, what are some of the other things you remember about Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham?
Well, I remember the naming of the streets, certain streets. Well, I'm from really the town of New Amsterdam.
Oh yeah, I forget that you are.
And they had the Burnham Park. They had I think they renamed the street to LFS Burnham Street. It says Coburg Street.
I wonder what that street looks like. Because you are back in Guyana, you basically.
Well, that street, there were so much potholes in that street. They're not taking care of those streets. I mean, if it was Cherry Jag on the street, you would see the work would be done.
Well, take a look at Babu Jan. And this is not to knock Babu Jan. Our leaders, the presidents of our country, those good ones, mind you, they deserve good treatment and respect when they pass away. But they get some. You just have to give them that sort of. And the people know what sort of treatment I'm talking about. Some should be given. But as we reflect on Burnham, 1985, it is August 6th, the entire country was just plunged into mourning. And we've got to give Jack his jacket and to say that Burnham was indeed a patriotic Guyanese. He had, especially during those years, it was considered the Cold War era.
Mm-hmm.
But before we took that break and went back to the botanical gardens there, the wreath-laying ceremony, you mentioned that Burnham did some bad things, and then you smile.
Well, I want to take it back.
Why are you're taking it back? You're saying
yes.
Yeah. Why are you taking it back?
Because I think it would be unfair to.
Let me just stick a pin for a second, please, Rep Lemon. I know it's Sunday morning, and it's the mood that we have at the wreath-laying ceremony here for Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, the late president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. But just give us an indication that you are hearing Lemon loud and clear. I know many of you want to see him, but are you hearing Lemon loud and clear in our studio here this morning? Continue, Lemon. So you're saying that you did say a few minutes back that he did a lot of good things, but he also did some bad things. And I'm giving you that opportunity to say, what are some of the bad things he did?
I mean, those years, the water system was kind of poor. And what as I say, I'm grew up in the town of New Amsterdam. The water system was kind of poor. So maybe blackouts. And I mean, this is what I'm saying. I want to take it back because he had no control over.
Now, let me just pause you there, and not to just stop you from and saying what you have to say, but I wouldn't say that. I would say that under the PNC, under Forbes Burnham, if you remember out in the quarantine, that you would drive certain villages and you saw there were electrical posts and poles being put up in villages and so forth. This was a man, under his presidency, he believed in enhancing the lives of all Guyanese. And so there were electrical poles being placed across most villages, and wires were run so that we can start to get electricity. And I remember that the villages such as Wim, such as Auckline, and all those villages start to get electricity.
Yes.
In terms of water, there were pump stations that were properly maintained in lots of villages. I remember at Philippi, we didn't have a pump station at Philippi, but we had a pump station at Cromarty. so that all the villages, the nearby villages, can get
Like
water.
remember the village as
So let's not go with water.
village of Exum,
One
Brighton.
second. Let's not go on the thing with
Well.
electricity and water, because under the PNC and Burnham, he ensured. But if you're talking
what
about
I was saying, water, they
Yeah.
come upstairs to flush a toilet or take a proper shower. You know, you just gotta fetch water in a bucket and bathe in buckets.
I remember from what the leadership, and they had to start to make Guyana the country that it is today. Those are villages and areas that never had these sort of things, and so with the little resources that the country had at that time, because it was during the Cold War era, and the country was being starved. They weren't getting loans from the IMF. And we've got to give Jack his jacket in terms of leadership and quality. And even under the circumstances, Burnham ensured. And of course, I would agree that Burnham wasn't a perfect leader, but there are so many examples that we can put out there to say that he meant well for the country. And he meant well for all the peoples of Guyana, not just one set of people, not just one Guyana, but all Guyana. Go ahead.
And one people, one nation, one destiny. Not one Guyana.
So what else? We talked about the electricity, because there are more blackouts under the PPP.
Right now,
23 years.
I mean, things supposed to improve.
Bad water system.
Why blackouts right in this time, 21st century? Why blackouts?
Absolutely. And let's check in some of our lists. But you were saying in terms of water, what are some of the other things that even as a little boy?
Sometimes the lines that I can remember as a little boy, I had to go in line for flour, oil, rice.
Mhm.
You have to line for the rice.
Let
Something you reach up there.
I did say earlier that it was the Cold War era. Guyana wasn't getting loans.
Yeah, but rice growing Guyana.
The exchange rates.
Why line up for rice?
The exchange, I can't remember lining up for rice,
Yes.
but I was at Udan Rice Mill. You go there, you purchase a bag of rice, you purchase a half bag of rice.
Well, my grandparents used to plant rice, so it was a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see, we oftentimes don't look at the times, and we tend to, as a people, we like to complain for about almost everything. I remember, I remember, long lines when they get these, and people are already talking. Heather Rowe is saying Lemon must look at LFS Burnham's leadership in context, and people are after you. And some people might start to say that Lemon should be fired after today, but we don't operate like that here at all. But in Heather is right in the context. During that time, the Cold War era, and look at the Guyana dollars too. There weren't loans from the IMF.
Tell Heather, I was a young kid. I mean, I'm just saying certain things,
And I see in modern times, when you pass at these big shows, you see long lines. I'm sure you would have gone to party and you had to join the line to party. You go on boat cruise, I'm sure, because you like those sort of lifestyle.
Yes.
And you join the line to wait to go into this boat cruise.
Yes.
And that is important for you. But joining the line, especially at a time when there were restrictions of certain commodities in Guyana and around the Caribbean and so forth. And the IMF, Burnham decided he's not going to go to the IMF, the IDB, or anybody for loan. That we as Guyanese, and I recall back then, we got to feed, clothe, and house the nation. And Burnham was heading exactly in that direction, not just through words, but by action. They had the Sonata textile, they had butter. You remember yachting boots and these things?
Yes.
So, go ahead. So talk a little bit about those days under Burnham.
Well, those days were good days,
I see that there's some folks who probably are saying they want to call. Some people are going after you.
Well, if they want to see my face.
And they're going after you. They said, "Don't talk because you have a mouth to speak." Well, some people are probably, um, and they're going to get emotional this morning. We got some folks who want to. Good morning, sir. You want to talk a little bit upon your reflection on Forbes Burnham? Go right ahead. You're live.
Yes, thank you, sir, for having me. Lyndon Thompson Burnham was one of the greatest leaders Ghana have ever seen. He took Ghana out of colonization and brought it to independence. He led the country in a unified manner, of which Indian, blacks, and everybody unite, live as one, except for the racist agenda the PPP always push. Because they always have a plan that they felt in their hearts that they were next to enslave black people. And they know they cannot do it physically. So they always try to do it economically. They do it through propaganda, they did it through arson, destruction of the economy, propaganda, and all these manners of state. But if we reflect on all the leaders that Ghana has ever had, it will have to be at Lyndon Thompson Burnham. He is the top of all of them. We have a president right now that are called Ali. He does not have any vision to lead a country. When Lyndon Thompson Burnham go overseas, to any conference, meeting, or whatever, when he retired, he would call a rally and explain to the nation the achievement or the failure. So we always abreast and know what is going on. The Indian use flour as a weapon of which Burnham did not create. That weapon was created by the ABC countries, the same people that the PPP harboring today as friends. I want to say this, it might sound harsh this morning, sir, but I want black people to understand something. I'm not black. I'm Portuguese, but I want black people to understand something. The white man would never, ever be the friend of a black man because the black man is only the nipples of the white man. If the white man can't feed off the black man, his country become a shithole country, an asshole country, and a country that nobody should visit because it's crime and violence. The spread propaganda to destroy your nation. And the Indians, I don't want to say the Indians, the PPP is in bed with these same people now to destroy our economy. If you look back at the reflection of Burnham, we couldn't get loans and cause a flour shortage and all this type of stuff. It was the ABC countries. If you look what is going on today, the people who is encouraging the PPP government to borrow money against prospective oil, which is going to drive up interest rate and all this type of stuff, is the PPP. The PPP has always been a failure. They will continue to be a failure. And until the people rise and imprison the whole PPP cabal, they would not see peace, they would not see ease. When you have done stuff, people who has never built a foul pen, now having road contracts, housing contracts. People who was poor as dirt yesterday is filthy rich today. What message are you sending to our young people? The PPP must go. We need to restore the vision of LFS Burnham. I want to say something too. The PPP so hate the vision of Burnham is that everything Burnham did, he's trying to destroy the co-ops. For matter of fact, I want to point something out to you people right now. The Linden Highway is going to be destroyed by the PPP, and then it's going to resurface it and claim that they built it. I don't have anything more to say, sir. Thank you very much.
But I thank you, and I thank you. But before you go, let me just say that Lemon is live in studio with us. Lemon, you heard the caller there. Is there anything you'd like to add or so about what the caller just said?
No, I agree with everything that he said. He says,
You agree with everything?
everything.
Yeah, thank you, Lemon. But before you go, sir, can you reflect on this day 38 years ago? Where were you and how did you take the news that President Burnham had passed away?
Well, it was a somber moment because the country was going through a lot of crisis and everybody was in a state of confusion because we had the problem with the shortages of food. We had, traders and everything, and the death of Burnham left us in a sense of despair because nobody knew what next was to come. And we were absolutely right because the next thing came was Desmond Hoyt, which was a disaster. Because when a man has to change his name to be accepted by another group of people, he's not a man. Because he had already started off on the wrong foot as, I won't say a sellout, but as a destructive force to what was already established before he came. And I want to say something else before I go. I want black people, and I speak black people who are offended because I'm saying black people. Too bad, but it's facts. Black people are not a capitalistic people by nature. And anytime you embrace capitalism and have capitalistic friends, you are setting yourself up for exploitation. Black people by nature are people. The belief of the black people and the native Indians are the same. They believe everything in this world is supposed to be shared, even what the hands possess. And that's why, if you look at the culture of black people, they don't put the elderly in homes and those type of stuff because they are cultural, communal people, which would fall under the pretext of socialism. And capitalists can't stand social because capitalists are exploiters and destroyers.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I appreciate that. Our caller there, and those of you who want to make a point, feel free to get in touch with us right here on 107.1 FM. Our telephone number is 917-714-1082. That's 917-714 714. Sorry, it's 917-714-1082. Feel free to give us a call if you want to reflect on the life and death of Forbes Burnham. You can give us a call right here. But Lemon, before we go to a speech, an inaugural speech of Forbes Burnham, what should the let's see what's happening here. Yep. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Mr. Ben.
Good morning.
All the beautiful people out there.
Good morning.
This crazy world that we in today. Admire the work that you're doing on a daily basis.
Thank you.
And yes, we've heard some good things and some bad things about, Mr. Burnham. But all in all, I think he had some good intentions and he did some good things that I think he was advanced for his time. And we must recognize that we need our leaders to take some pages out of this guy book, man. And he just showed how to conduct himself. He never stuttered to answer questions in the media and these kind of things. He was confident, he was brilliant, and I would like to, to see some kind of history be taught in school about, about this body of work, But there's so many challenges that people are facing every day in Guyana. It's very difficult for us to even focus on one thing because so many things just keep arising every single day. There's distractions after distractions. But when are we gonna come together, man? This is the only way we're gonna, I don't want to say win this fight or win this battle, but coming together is the key, joining hands and forces together to overthrow evil. I'm going to say this, you might not like it, but, I noticed you have Mr. Granger come on and a few times and he's talking about some different things, but when is he going to address the real problems and issues that we are facing, man? When is that going to happen?
I agree with you, and it's not like I'm not going to like it. I'm of the view that the time has come for Mr. Granger, former president, to start addressing real issues. It's not that the issues that are being addressed by him aren't real issues, but I understand the sentiment of so many people that they want that sort of issues that are affecting them as of now, today. But I've noticed that he has taken a position of from a historical standpoint, and but I see your point, and I agree with you that David Arthur Granger should also talk about the modern day situation that's affecting Guyanese, and at times he should be talking about that. And I agree with you. So there's nothing for me to not like about what you just said there. Well, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I thank you for addressing that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's like I went to Guyana last year, and what I saw is like it's like my people are wounded. You know, a wounded animal that is trying to like nurse and heal himself, he or her. That's how I see my people, man. I see my people. They haven't like caught. They haven't awakened yet. They haven't healed yet. It's like the batteries need recharging to make this push now, man. You know, to get ourselves out of this situation.
The battery needs recharging indeed.
Our batteries, our batteries need recharging. Our people are wounded, man.
Yep. But thank you so much for your call, though,
Thank you.
and have a great day, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. You too.
You're welcome. Feel free to give us a buzz right here on 107.1 FM. The telephone number is 917-714-1082. Lemon, as you can see, we're joined by attorney at law, Shalon Washington, who is taking time out to spend a couple of minutes with her to talk about her reflection on FOBS Burnham on this day. Morning, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, Mark. Good morning to everyone out there, all the listeners, people who have tuned in this morning. And thank you for having me. I think this morning is a really important day for all of us in Guyana, not just Guyana, but Guyanese everywhere. Lyndon Ferb Sampson Burnham is one or was one of the founding presidents or founding father, we would refer to him as, of Guyana. He was a great leader. I think since his times, we haven't had anybody that could compare to him. He was uncomparable. He was very intelligent. He was very charismatic. He was a very great leader. And despite a lot of the rumors people have been spreading, especially coming from the PPPC regarding his leadership, we know that this is false and information is now coming to light. We saw Kit Nascimento most recently came out and made statements that, a lot of the narratives we were hearing about Lyndon Ferb Sampson Burnham being a racist, those statements are untruthful. And we know for sure now at this point, the information that we had received in the past about him banning flour, about him putting restrictions on importation of goods, we know a lot of that information is false. And it went to the root of Guyana being penalized by some of the Western nations, being penalized by Great Britain. And there was actually no money in our budget to support importation of goods which were too costly. So we know now, by now, people should know that he was a great leader. He did a lot for Guyana. And if we had followed what he was trying to encourage Guyanese to do when inflation started and the pandemic started and there was shortage of food, Guyanese would not have experienced that if we had listened to what Lyndon Ferb Sampson Burnham was actually trying to tell Guyanese: to produce what you eat and eat what you produce. Because when it came to the perilous times, Guyanese would have been able to sustain themselves and survive comfortable without going through the shortage of food shortage that we were experiencing. I think we should reflect on his life and his legacy and remember it as him being a great person. And we shouldn't focus on the negative narrative that was spread and people had tried to influence us by telling us he was a bad person. He wasn't. He was really a good leader. He was a great leader. He did a lot for Guyana. And I think if we would have gone in the exact direction that he was trying to take our country would have been standing much, much more stronger today, because we would have been more of a self-sustaining nation, a nation that would have produced what it eat and eat what it produce, rather than the focus that we have shifted to, which is importation, major importation in Ghana. Ghana basically does not produce a lot of what it consumes. The last time I recall visiting Guyana and visiting the supermarkets, I saw the shelves were so filled, crowded with foreign or imported food. Food that contains, which Guyanese don't know, bioengineered material. So if Guyanese knew what they're importing and what they're consuming, I think a lot of them would have preference to produce or continue under the legacy of Forbes Sampson Burnham, and encourage the government to allow for the factories, for the production, for all the things that Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham pushed for. He was causing Guyana to make its own car. Today, Guyana hasn't produced a single car. We don't know about that in Guyana. Guyana had a glass factories. We had so many different things under this great leader, and Ghana was completely stripped from all of the things that he pushed for us to, all the strides that we have made, a lot of strides under him, and under the PPPC, all those advancements that we had gained, all the strides that we gained under such a great man. The PPPC has pulled it down. But I want us to continue to remember Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham for who he was, a great, intelligent, charismatic leader.
Thank you so much, Attorney at Law Shellen Washington. I appreciate your time. Do have a great day. And I really do appreciate it, because calling you, you're getting dressed for some other activities, family related. But yet,
Church.
Yeah, thank you. Church.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate it.
You.
Yeah, church, indeed. Yep. Lemon, before we go to the 1964 inaugural speech of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, which is very important, and I call on folks to listen to this speech back in 1964, a message for all Guyanese, not some Guyanese, not one Guyana, a message for all of Guyana, all Guyanese, one people, one nation, one destiny. Anything else you want to add before we get to that speech, Lemon?
No, not at this time. Just listen to the speech and
just listening to the speech and so forth. Yeah, Lemon, as usual, man of few words, always on time for work, especially on Fridays. Let's go to the speech and we'll be right back as we reflect 38 years of Burnham's death.
The election is now over. A hard and at times bitter campaign has come to an end. On the results, the People's National Congress, in the interests of peace and stability in Guyana, has agreed with the support of the United Force to form the government. One of the more serious tasks facing us at this moment is the attainment of independence at the earliest point of time. One of the disturbing features of the election, which we have noted, is the apparent cleavage existing in our society, brought about by colonialism and 7 years of mismanagement and misrule. It has come to our knowledge that despite the years of disaster suffered by the people of this country, a large section of the electorate was persuaded against its best interests to vote for the party formerly in power as a result of the dishonest and opportunist propaganda that, unless that party was returned to power, those people would suffer. The new government, headed by me, intends to show by its actions in the immediate future, and indeed throughout its term of office, that this is not true. The problem of racial cleavage, racial antagonism, and distrust, which the last government allowed to develop during its term of office, is still with us. But our government recognizes this as a challenge which it intends to accept and which it is determined to overcome. My government considers that it is a matter of the greatest importance and the utmost urgency that an atmosphere of relaxation be established immediately. The reduction of tension, which is already apparent, and which will become more pronounced with every passing day, when it is realized that not only are we intent on being fair and just, but also that we have at our disposal the means to carry out our intention, is merely the first fruits of our attainment of office. Enemies of this country would like to see racial division and antagonism continue. They will not have that satisfaction. The government recognizes that its duty is to rule in the interests of all the people of this country. It will dispel the fears of the apprehensive and confound the hopes of those who seek the destruction of this country. To be specific, this government holds that all the people of this country are equally important, whether they belong to a large group or to a small group. To us, the Amerindians are important. To us, the Chinese are important. To us, the Portuguese are important. To us, the Europeans are important. To us, the mixed races are important. To us, the Africans are important. To us, the Indians are important. In short, all Guyanese are important and valued members of our community, and we cherish them and consider that as a government, it is our duty and privilege to guard, protect, and further the real interests of all. It would appear that the would-be destroyers of this country have sought to convince our Indian citizens that they have cause to fear because of the removal of the former government. We can assure our Indian citizens here and now that rather than cause for fear, they have much to hope for from the new government. This government is not bent on the confiscation of property. This government will not pursue policies likely to bring the races into collision. This government will maintain law and order. This government, while in office, will never declare its impotence to see that the lives and property and personal safety of any citizens are protected. We are fully aware that attempts will be made in the future, as in the past, to create disturbances. All of us know who are likely to create disturbances and who think that they have some benefit to be derived from chaos and violence. We have no benefit to derive from such things, and we will stamp out firmly and ruthlessly any disruption of the calm and studied and steady progress which we are determined to establish and maintain in this country for the good of all. We ask for time, patience, understanding. The damage done over the last 7 years cannot be repaired in a day. We cannot and will not condone and accept the nepotism and corruption of the past 7 years. Changes are necessary, and changes will be made. But no one who is honest and possessed of ability need have the least apprehension. The results of the election and the formation of our government are not to be considered a victory for one party, but a triumph for the whole Guyanese people. There is nothing to gloat over. Nobody is pantap. But all of us are, I am sure, sobered by the realization of how near we came to having our country destroyed, and how arduous were our endeavors to give this country the chance to live, to breathe, to survive. It has been reported to me that some established organizations have made representations to the British government about Guyanese affairs. I wish to announce that in the immediate future, I shall seek to hold discussions with the Mahasabha, the Hindu organization, the United Sadr Islamic Anjuman, ASCRIA, GALE, the Chinese Association, and of course with the Archbishop of the West Indies, the Roman Catholic Bishop of Georgetown, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Congregational Conference, the Methodist Body, and other religious and cultural organizations. My purpose as Premier is to establish a consultative democracy. And now that the majority of the Guyanese electorate has declared in favor of the government in power, it is my wish that Guyanese in and out of the legislature, with malice towards none and goodwill towards all, will settle down to the engaging task of binding up the nation's wounds and charting a new course, a new road of peace and prosperity for Guyana.
Who wants to say something there? Feel free. Say something. I notice Aubrey Allicock is saying a very fluent speaker. That goes without saying, Aubrey. Aubrey Allicock, that is. Good morning to all of you. This is a live event. Earlier, if you missed it, we had the wreath laying ceremony out there at the Botanical Gardens. Today happens to be the 38th death anniversary of Lyndon Fobbs Sampson Burnham. The 38th death anniversary. 38 years ago. Imagine, I was just a little boy back then. 38 years ago. For me, I'm thinking that it was just yesterday. Just like that, as we say in Guyana. Just like that, yesterday. 38 years ago. 38 years ago, just like that. Let's see. I think we have someone who wants to go on here. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark.
Yes. Good morning.
I just want to share something very interesting.
Go ahead.
When you look back at Forbes Sampson Burnham, he was a man for the people. He was a man for everyone. He wasn't for our people only. He was for people across the board, for all the people of all races. He realized that our people at the time, our parents cannot have sent us to university because of financial issues. What he did, he made education free. Again, from that, he made education free that across the board could go from nursery to university. The people who could not afford uniforms, he gave us uniforms. I benefit from that. Free books, meals at school. When you go to school, they used to give you biscuit and milk. From nursery to secondary. This is a man who loved the people. This was a man who was for the people. And then when you look back now and you hear it from the other side of the fence, the people are saying that he was a dictator. He banned this and he banned that and he do this and he do that. That's a lie, brother. That's a lie from hell. But remember now, you're dealing with demons, you know. So if you're dealing with demons, you're gonna get the devil response. So this was a man for the people, man. That's it. Bottom line.
Yeah.
A man who cares for everyone. He was not one-sided, as people say. But I can only speak from what I know or what I see, because I can tell you, I get free education from him. Not only me, many friends. Yeah.
And you are correct. Before you go, you are correct. The caller is calling out from the UK. We have callers. Feel free to give us a call right here in the studio, 917-714-1082. Let me ask you this, because you did talk about the free uniforms. You did talk about the free biscuits and milk and to ensure, and the milk and biscuits weren't like mixed with water and rundown biscuits and these things. They were healthy. They were healthy things.
No, it was nutritious stuff. Nutritious stuff.
And the thing is, to caller, is that when those things were distributed across the country, it wasn't distributed only in one area. It was every area that benefited from this, regardless of your ethnicity. That's correct. That's correct. But 38.
I remember, let me jump one more before I go.
Sure.
I remember dentists used to come up to our school from primary to check our teeth on the Burnham regime.
Yeah, the healthcare, you had all of the health centers.
The system was up and running.
Yeah.
The healthcare system was first class.
And what about because I'm an original Linden guy, born in Linden, but I spent most of my young years on the quarantine. And so I can talk about the quarantine because I feel that I'm a Borbician by extension. The infrastructure, the drainage and irrigation, Blackbush Pole and all these things, there was the best years in terms of rice production and so forth, even though the PPP were sabotaging the sugar fields. But those were good years of rice production, and the latter years of his presidency, we began to see the improvement of the sugar industry because the PPP stopped burning the sugarcane fields and these sort of things. I don't know. You reflect on those days and the mass games and the coming together.
I remember those days where, as young men, we used to swim in the gutter. We used to swim in the gutter. It was so clean and tidy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week there was garbage collection 2-3 days in a week. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember these days. These were powerful days on the Forbes. Forbes was a man who cared to the people.
I also remember.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the gutters, and I remember when I visited some relatives out there in Queenstown, Georgetown, that is, many years ago when Burnham was president, and we as little boys, we were running around Queenstown and go on the St. John Road and whatever the other roads are, streets names in Georgetown, and the gutters, specifically about the gutters, and the streets were very, very clean. The gutters, we used to watch and see things, fish and all these things. Now you can't even recognize the gutters. For 23 years, the PPP destroyed it.
Yeah. Place in a mess.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
But let's see what's going to happen. As the caller before earlier said, we have to recharge our battery because I believe this is the time, brother. This is the time.
Yeah, we've got to recharge the good batteries because they get some batteries, they get those things that's popping out of the batteries outside the bad batteries. We got to put the.
We got to remove the old batteries.
Oh, you know what's going on. Thank you so much, Bill, for your call. Appreciate it. Yeah. And good afternoon to the folks out there in the UK. Let's go to another caller. Caller, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're live on the air.
Good morning, Mark. Burnham here. Just reminiscing on President Burnham. When he died, I was in common entrance class, and good man,
Yep. And
good man. I remember I remember about him. You see him on his horse, and when he used to land on Coffee by Milky Bomb with his helicopters and so on, and the kids used to be swimming in that trench called Milky Bomb, and he said that one of these days somebody would be an Olympian. Well, two things come to pass, and that happened, So it's very sad.
So when you guys were swimming back in those days, and you said when Mr. Burnham died, you were in common entrance class.
Yes.
What were some of the things you remembered when you were in common entrance class, hearing about the death 38 years ago of Forbes Burnham, President?
Well, I was on Dortmund Street going somewhere, and the news got in the air, and there was a song that was playing, a sad song, that we couldn't believe it, as far as I can remember is that I think George Young stood still. I don't know about the end, but George Young stood still when this thing happened. It was silence. It wasn't that day. It wasn't like a normal day anymore. People weren't going out. They were sticking to the radios and listening to hear what happened. That's what I remember too on that day.
Yeah, and obviously grew up in the mass, and let's just take this moment to welcome Mr. Wade Caesar with us as we will get his reflections shortly. But good morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Mark, and a pleasant good morning to all our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, we have a caller on the line there who will continue. Brennan, continue, sir.
Yes, and as the caller was saying earlier, we had mass games, and every mass games, what we had good things to eat in school, the biscuits. Even my class, even my schoolmates now, they would post that biscuit in our group, I was the Saints, thank you, and they would post that biscuit that Burnham used to go to the schools, and the milk, the tins, the milk in the boxes, the plain milk and the chocolate milk in the boxes. That was so good.
And we thank you so much, though, Brandon, for your reflections. And I'm glad that you meant. But my next question would have been, since you were just about to write common entrance, I thought that at that time you were in common entrance class. You weren't prepared to write common entrance in August.
No.
Because that was when common entrance results were about to come out, sometime I believe in August, if I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah. So were you waiting?
Was it in 85?
Yes, 85, August 6th.
Yes, correct.
So you were writing common entrance, or you were waiting for results?
I was writing common entrance because, yes, I used to live in August Street at the time. Yes.
Okay, in August. Yeah, but thank you so much. I'm glad that you've mentioned that you had your biscuits, you had your milk, and all these good memories. You're able to keep you guys back then as young people, and even myself, strong, very strong, because they had a lot of folks who couldn't probably had much time to prepare a proper breakfast. And so the kids who ran out to catch the bus, whether it's the Tata or the Kayo bus, as we knew them back on the quarantine, you were able to go to school and get some biscuit and get some milk and so forth.
The Tata bus, I remember that Tata bus, yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I remember the Tata bus where you would put in your 50 cents in your bob, your 25 cents in your bob.
Yeah.
A bob.
Or you would hope that the bus driver wasn't paying attention. You just squeeze at the side and say,
right.
Until somebody said, "Look, Mark, just squeeze it on the side." There, man, I used to get vexed, but
yes.
Thank you so much for your call, though. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and for those of you who want to share your opinion and your opinions, feel free to give us a call here. We have a new system set up. Mr. Caesar, good morning. I know you had a busy day yesterday, but thanks for joining us for the reflection of LFS Burnham. Let us get your take, sir.
Well, Mark, I think having a reflection of LFS Burnham is necessary. This man was definitely the father of Guyana. He would have developed Guyana to a point that, we have not seen development, since the passing of this man. We have not seen the kind of development, that Burnham would have executed. And, he taught his people very well. If you go back, you remember in his time, you had a lot of distribution of lands. He wanted to spread his people out, and it was one big banap and everyone was welcome. It didn't matter whether you was Afro-Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese. He distributed lands to everyone. He taught us how to be efficient when it comes to producing our own food, efficient as a country. There are certain decisions that he made, there are certain decisions that he did not make. But when it was all said and done, Mark, this guy would always end up, for the most part, being right. And when you look at his decision that he would have made concerning oil and these type of things, and you look what's happening now, you can see, that Burnham's vision was right. We weren't ready for it, and it don't seem as if we're ready for it at this time either.
And one of the things, though, Wayne, for 23 years, we saw the destruction of Guyana. 23 years. it took us really, really further back because we began to see the developments even coming out of the Burnham era, the Cold War era, the IMF, there were no loans or whatever. And then, as one previous caller said, that they saw that change, that shift on the U. Desmond Hoyt's presidency. My memories of that day wasn't more from a political standpoint because I wasn't too sure what was to come. I was young then, but not politically naive. But I wasn't sure who was going to take over, who was going to become the next president, who was going to be the next prime minister. I didn't know of the infighting and so forth because let's face reality, they had a bit of that. But after Forbes Burnham's death and started, I think, not I think, then economic advisor, U. Desmond Hoyt, and at that time he was prime minister as well, became the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and the nation took a shift. We started to see loans back from the IMF and so forth, and the dollar value went from maybe $10 to 15 to 50, and it started to rise. But I say all of this because of different styles of leadership. But even after the taking over of Guyana by Desmond Hoyt, Guyana was still a beautiful place. It was still a safe place. People were still patriotic. Education was free from nursery to university. But we saw that lapse and that backwardness under the PPPC. As soon as they got into office in 1992, they removed free education, free tuition at the university level. And for 23 years, speaking specifically about that, for 23 years, the nation suffered. Young people were deprived of that opportunity. And most of those who in the PPP, when they took over in 1992, those who attended university, because we know quite a few of them didn't even finish nursery school. They benefited from that free education at the university level on the Burnham, under the PNC, under Desmond Hoyt, but they deprived an entire nation of that for 23 years. Mr. Caesar.
And Mark, that is a very valid point, and I'll take this time again to give credit to Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, because Mark, for a man to make university free from nursery all the way, education free from nursery all the way through university, that would have to be a very, very competent individual. And that is what LFS Burnham was. He was competent. He wasn't feeling, threatened by anyone, threatened by any other Guyanese being as educated as he was. And I feel like if that was the thing with the PPPC, they came in with a new style and they were going to reverse, what Burnham would have accomplished. And their style was that, they wanted a limited amount of Guyanese to be educated, Mark. That way they would have control. The people would not be educated enough to challenge them.
And,
right?
and the handful, and you are correct, Wayne, the handful of persons that they wanted to just be educated were some family members, some of their kids, and just some close family members, and that was it. Because the entire nation for 23 years, can you imagine depriving young people that opportunity to have an education? But lots of people can't afford that at the university level, and that is what the PPP deprived the entire nation, deprived young people. They actually destroyed a generation there. With 23 years of not giving them access to that free education they were accustomed to and they benefited from under Forbes Burnham. I notice we have a call here. Caller, good morning. Let's get your reflection, please.
Hello, good morning, Mark. Me honored to speak with tears in my eyes from emotion. God is good. I want to reflect on Mr. Burnham's legacy. I grew up in Agricula in poverty. My grandmother could not afford education. And because of LFS Burnham, he was able to make a difference in my life from pre-education to nursery to university. I seek after knowledge. I used to go and stand at coffee and listen to this man. I was very intelligent at a young age. You don't have to be a product of your environment. And I could tell that he was a father of this nation, Guyana, that he was a visionary. He had the best interests of Guyanese people. And I could say so much. I had a sister, she was in the national service. She died and she came out because of too much of some of the values that Mr. Burnham put in place. He had system in place. I don't care what they say, we give you rice flour, I eat it, and the rice flour make me stronger. I didn't get berry. Hello. And God is good. I'm preparing to go to his reflection in another few hours, and it touched me in the depths of my heart to see that I could be able to share this legacy with my third and fourth and sixth and seventh generations to come. And I could go out there in the world and tell them about LFS Burnham. History cannot be erased from this country. He is the father of this nation. When God say yes, nobody can say no. LFS Burnham, he made a difference in my life that I could go back out there and tell them about this man. And I want to may his soul rest in peace and he rise in glory. Nursery, pre-education, from nursery to university. I could say so much, but I'm getting emotional when I think about these things. It brings tears of joy to my eyes. I want to thank God. I never believed that I was going to be involved. God is good. And I'm telling young people to teach. We need to give them the knowledge of this man, of what he has done in our lives. He is the father of this nation, and nobody else. Anything else is a lie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And for those of you who do want to call, our number is on the screen, 917-714-1082. So emotional, Wayne. People are still reflecting on this free education from nursery to university. From nursery to university. And unfortunately, the unpatriotic individuals from 1992 until 2015, they denied thousands upon thousands of young people, and not so young people, an opportunity for free education at the university level. For 23 years, they destroyed that nation, the PPP, that is, Jack Dave and his cabal.
Mark, I am totally in agreement with the caller that just came off there, because based on what she would have just said, and she has all right to be emotional at this time, because what Burnham would have done, he would have created a path, you understand me, for her dreams in life to be realized, Mark. And today, when we look at what's going on, the path only leads to broken dreams. The path only leads to broken promises. The path only leads to Guyanese who does not have the literacy level that they should be having. So yes, all thanks to Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. And I say this again, he is the father of Guyana. We've never seen the type of development. We've never seen the type of togetherness in Guyana since Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. He was a man that would have brought everyone together. He was a leader that everyone would have benefited from across the board. Sometimes, Mark, we wanted to question some of the things that he did. But when, in hindsight, when we look and we do further analysis, we see where the man's vision was
And
leading us.
And we stick a pin on that. We have a caller on the line. Thank you so much, Wayne. But caller, good morning. And we see here Otto Martin. Otto, good morning, sir.
Very good morning to you, sir.
Yep, good morning. Otto Martin from the Small Man Show. What's happening? 38 years ago, Burnham died. Let us get your reflection, please, sir.
Yeah, 38 years ago, I was just a mere youngster coming up, but I know who he was. My reflection of Burnham is he, in retrospect, looking back, was a visionary, for one. He stood his ground for Guyanese, for two. I'm on my exercise this morning, but yeah,
that's okay.
Looking back, he was a visionary, and in retrospect, now we understand fully what he stood for when it comes to standing up for his country, his Guyanese, his beliefs, etc., etc. So,
yeah,
I think he was a great leader. I think some of his vision, further than that, is needed now, right? If we could master some of the things he did and some of the things he stood for, I think it'll put us in a different position. And well, that's all right now.
Otto,
thank you guys for letting me in. I do enjoy the rest of the day.
Otto, we want to thank you. We want to thank you, and Otto from the Small Man Show. Otto, thank you so much, and sorry to have you call us while you're doing your exercise. Thank you, Otto Martin.
Yeah, that's quite all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
You gentlemen have a wonderful day, and
Thank
stay
you.
bigging up the current leader, because there's nothing like him right now, and that's what we need now in our.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Otto. Appreciate it. Notice we have another caller, Wayne, coming through. Caller, good morning. Yep. Caller, good morning. You're live on the air.
Good morning.
Yeah, if you can listen to us and not the your computer or your grid. Yeah. Yeah, good morning. Can you listen to us right now on the phone? Well, go ahead. Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to let Lyndon's house.
Yeah, go right ahead. If you could move away from your computer, please, so that they wouldn't have that feedback, and talk to me and listen to me by the phone. But go ahead. Yeah.
Foxmart building the forest, building the houses, team in West Rock, giving us a life in West Rock. Our first self-help houses team.
Yeah, we're hearing you loud and clear. Continue. Yep, not sure what's happening there, but ma'am, are you still with us? Yeah, we lost that call. I don't know what happened, but caller, we appreciate you took the time to call, and if you wish to call again, we can have a better reception, probably, to hear your point out, which is what we want to do. Give folks that opportunity to voice their opinions and hear their points, their point of views. Sorry we lost that caller, though. Mr. Caesar, continue before we go into a speech by the late Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham on our first Republic anniversary, our first Mushroom Man. Go ahead, Mr. Caesar.
All right. So, Mark, I just want to hit quickly on what that call. It was very brief, but she got her point across. So, Mark, basically what she was talking about there is housing. Okay. And we have a struggle right now. Guyanese, normal, born and bred, local Guyanese cannot even get a piece of land in Guyana to build a house and raise their family. They have to continue renting. It's sad. And on the Burnham time, he would have provided. There's so many housing schemes that Burnham would have
But
built.
the thing is that when you look, and good point the caller made, and glad that you picked up on that too, Mr. Caesar. But when you look at the quality of houses built, the housing schemes, there were infrastructure, there were lights, there were. Notice the caller is calling back. Ma'am, good morning again. Good morning. Good morning, ma'am.
We need to work the background a little bit there.
So, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes, I was saying to you. Good morning.
Yeah, can you stop listening to your computer, please, and listen to just the conversation on the phone? It will make things easier. Good morning.
I was saying to you, as a small girl, I can remember Lyndon Fox Burnham building as a self-help. In West Rock. It was a self-help. Every month as a self-help, you used to get rations to go and build your own house, your own home.
Indeed, you are correct. Your own house, your own homes turned into your homes, and yeah.
And you pay, and at the month when you finish building, and you have to pay for your home. And it wasn't expensive.
Those are fond memories. I can just imagine how that is able to mold you.
I was a small girl. I could remember my brothers, my elder brothers, them used to go every day to assist in self-help in Wisdom.
Yep. Thank you so much for that reflection and how that was able to mold you to be the person I'm sure you are today. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your. Thank you. Yeah. Wayne, as I noticed some other folks try to call in, but let me just say that once someone is on the air, it wouldn't be possible to get through at that time. So if you can, and I say this respectfully, wait until the caller is finished, then you can try to get through so that we can have one caller at a time. And then when that caller is finished, then you can dial again. Speaking of housing, and you touched on that also, Wayne, picking up from what that caller said about Wisrock and then even Amelia's ward. Started on the PNC, built under the PNC, Burnham. But we heard of the lies and the propaganda by Jack Deo and his goons, especially that goon Jack Deo, talking about the Amelia's ward built under him and all these, the propaganda. And that was quickly shut down. But when we speak of houses and developments and housing schemes under the PNC, Burnham and so forth, they weren't these. These are not houses. These are not houses at all. Burnham PNC never built these sort of things. These are, I wouldn't even want to describe this, but these are not, this is not development in 2023 in an oil booming economy. And if we got that sort of housing scheme on the Burnham with those beautiful houses, even if you go through South, you go through Amelia's ward and so forth, you didn't see these low quality of houses. And just imagine what Burnham would have done, or previous PNC leaders, presidents, that is, would have done had they had access to oil money, billions of dollars of oil money. Mr. Caesar?
Well, first of all, Mark, let me say this. I don't know what it is that you're depicting there on the screen because that's not representative of an home. Okay, a home has to be, large enough to fit a family in. So listen, we don't have a caste system in Guyana, and if the PPPC think that they're going to put that in place, Mark, we are just not going to allow that. So I don't know the reasoning, behind building these homes.
Well, the reasoning is fraud, corruption, because one of the contractors connected to PPP would charge the PPP and taxpayers, that is, at least $8 to $10 million to build this stuff that would cost nothing more than two to 300,000 Guyana dollars, which is just about 1,500 US. But they charge taxpayers $8 to $10 million just for this. Corrupt contractors, corrupt PPP officials, corrupt installed president.
Yeah, because Mark, listen, how is one supposed to raise a family living in something like this? It would not be, reasonably possible, to raise children. Everybody's on top of each other. It's not healthy. There's not even no playing space to the children to play if you have young children there. Of course, they're gonna want to go out in some sort of a yard. These houses are right on top of each other, making it look like if it's Barbados or something where there's not, that type of spacing. Guyana is what, 83,000 square miles, Mark, and for the most part, the land is not inhibited. So why is it, houses on top of each other? But that just goes back to show, Mark, the backwardness of this government, and it goes back to show also where we deeply would miss someone of the character, someone with the leadership qualities.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there with Mr. Caesar. His internet may have ceased at this point, but those of you who are now joining us, good morning to you. If you're in the UK, because we had callers from the UK as well, Colorado, we have callers from all over, even in Guyana. We welcome you to this special program. It's a spontaneous program, of course. We welcome you to it. I'm not sure, do we have Mr. Caesar back? Mr. Caesar?
Yes, I'm here, Mark.
Yeah, continue, sir.
Oh, I can't even remember. Where did I get cut off?
You're talking about the caliber leader like Forbes Burnham compared to what we see, these washed down calabash kind of so-called leaders, these unpatriotic, these flat-foot hustlers, these criminals who are heading Guyana right now. No comparison indeed.
Right, and it's because we don't have a leader of the character of and possessing the leadership qualities of a Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham. That's why we are in the position that we're in today. And many want to talk about him and talk all these things about him, Barry Jagdeo, when he gets ready. But Barry Jagdeo could never he can't even wear Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham.
Jagdeo is in no category. Jagdeo is basically a flat-foot hustler, or worse. And he can't even speak. And look, and we'll give you a perfect, he can't even speak. He's not a bona fide economist. I don't know where he studied economics, but he can't even speak. He's not patriotic. He was the guy. Jagdeo was the one who wanted to give Venezuela a piece of Guyana. Jagdeo is the one who cussed out the judge that ruled in favor of the people of Guyana recently concerning the insurance in the event that there's an oil spill in Guyana. Jagdeo is the one who actually views out and cuss out. And that's the caliber of leaders that we see today in Guyana. The quality of leaders seem to be diminishing rapidly, but we're seeing it more so in this installed PPP regime. And I speak in terms of the quality. And listen to this so-called leader, this unpatriotic flat-foot hustler, Barra Jagdeo. Listen to him speak, and then we'll go right into the late President Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham.
Right across Ghana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them.
Horrible leadership, so-called leader. Horrible. Mr. C's and others, let's go to FOBS Burnham and listen, and you will see and hear immediately. The first second you will hear and see the difference.
Comrades, fellow Guyanese, 9 years ago, we Guyanese made the final and decisive assertion of our political and psychological independence by completely severing the remaining constitutional links with the colonial power. For us, the coming into being of the Cooperative Republic was the logical culmination of the struggle for independence, initiated over 200 years ago by our national hero, Coffee, at Magdalenenburg in Berbice. But, as I have always emphasized, political independence is not an end in itself. Rather, it represents an opportunity to create a society in which all citizens are assured of social and economic justice. The People's National Congress at all times recognized that the process of transforming the society, which process will be given new impetus and momentum with the promulgation later this year of the new Constitution, was not going to be an easy task, and that the path ahead would be strewn with many obstacles. The PNC, as the party in government, never attempted to delude the Guyanese people about the sacrifices which would be demanded of all of us as we moved in unison to free our country from poverty, want, hate, fear, and foreign domination. The process of nation building and societal transformation is never easy. You, for instance, in North America, would do well to acquaint yourselves with the hardships and privations which went into making the United States the world's richest and most powerful country today. At the moment in Guyana, we are going through a period of difficulty. This is not peculiar to us, but is the common, unfortunate lot of most, if not all, of the non-oil producing developing countries. Indeed, even the developed countries, and many of you can personally attest to this, have not escaped the effects of the worldwide crisis. But for all the problems being experienced at home, and which you have most certainly heard about, development has not stagnated. For example, last year witnessed the initiation of massive ventures like the Tapakuma scheme, $103 million, the Mahaika-Maikoni-Abari scheme, $200 million, the Upper Demerara River Forestry Project, $76 million, and the Blackbush Polar Extension, $115 million. It was the year also of the completion of the Kanji Bridge and that dream of the Demerara River Bridge, which many of us had despaired of seeing in our lifetime. During this year, it is expected, among other things, that work will commence on the erection of a solvent plant for extracting oil from rice bran, and also that there will be the manufacture on a large commercial scale of byproducts like vinegar and yeast from molasses. Just a few days ago, your government released the Guyana Investment Code, which, as its name implies, sets out the guidelines for investing in Guyana. It is a document which all of you should scrutinize and popularize, and one which, by setting out clearly and unequivocally the government's policy in this area, should hopefully answer many questions and set clear parameters. Sure, we have had and will continue to have difficulties. And of course there was Jonestown. But we are confronting these issues and problems with a grit, determination, and intensity, which daily suggests that we shall overcome. Finally, let me assure you that your government considers you to be very much part of Guyana and welcomes you home. Indeed, invites you to join in the exciting, though demanding task of development and nation building. As we celebrate the 9th anniversary of the Cooperative Republic, I feel confident that you must realize that you have a motherland of which you can be proud and which at all times offers you a hospitable and receptive embrace.
Mr. Caesar, you heard that there. Lyndon Fobbs Sampson Burnham, President, talking in celebration of the 9th Republic anniversary. We became a republic, Guyana became a republic on February 23rd, let me see if you guys know, a 7 and something else. Let me just test our audience there. But that was the 9th Republic anniversary of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And when you listen to Forbes Burnham, President Burnham, his speech, it's inclusive, everyone, he spoke about everyone. He spoke about, of course, there was transparency there. He spoke about the fact how they were spending the nation's monies, the taxpayers. Outside of that, he also, Yvette Graham, it was Guyana became a republic in 1970. February 23rd, 1970. Many of us weren't born then, but we are here today. And the 9th anniversary is celebrated in 1979. And of course, I didn't remember much of that, but that's besides the point. But Burnham, listening to Burnham, and he spoke back then, he gave an account of how he was spending the nation's money. He spoke about the Kanji River Bridge, that everyone, and including those who love to cuss Burnham, the transformation of that area, the quarantine highway on the Burnham and the PNC, the Kanji Bridge, because back in those days, well, I can't recall, I don't know of those days, when people used to have to use a boat to cross from one end to the other. Burnham changed that through the Kanji River Bridge. That is still there. I don't know if Mr. Caesar, you had an opportunity to cross the Kanji River Bridge, and if you're heading west, on the right side of that will be where Jack Dale and Irfan and all of these guys came from, the mental institution. But the Kanji River Bridge is still there today. Still there today as a result of Burnham and the PNC. And all those farmers and everybody driving across the market and so forth with their trucks and their cars and everything to make a living as a result of the very man they love to curse. Look at the quarantine highway. It is still there today as a result of the very man they love to cuss. The infrastructure, the drainage and irrigation, the building of Blackbush Polder. Rice farmers had proper water running into their rice fields when they planted beer, and all these manner of things. It worked, it sold, they became rich. Rice mill were grinding, whether from Oxtile, whether at Wim, at Oxtile on the quarantine, Budan or Udan at whim, and so forth. You go at those rice mills and paddies and all these things were steady producing right there. The highway, Quarantine Highway, and then Burnham spoke about the Demerara River Bridge, the Linden Soosdike Highway, you name it. I don't know, Mr. Caesar, sorry about that. I get a little emotional when I reflect on all these things that we benefited, all of us as Guyanese. Just imagine if Jack Dale and Irfan they had that opportunity. Guyana would have been a mud place. People would have been living, most people would have been living in mud huts under Jack Dale and Irfan Canal, as what we're seeing right now. But go ahead, Mr. Caesar. But before you do, let's welcome all of our listeners in the. People are still saying 1972. It's actually 1970 that Guyana became a republic on February 23rd. The PPP spread the propaganda that it was Burnham's birthday. Burnham's birthday is not on February 23rd. It's a day that they signed, that they negotiated. A bunch of these guys negotiated. It wasn't Burnham who said he wants the 23rd of February to become a republic. So all of these propaganda and more. I just wish the PVP, the PNC was aggressive using their YSM and so forth to go out there and counter the propaganda and to have these stalwarts in the PNC like Hamilton Green and others to write books. Write books. Mr. Caesar, go ahead, sir.
Well, Mark, listen, that further demonstrate the ignorance of the PPPC when it comes to the history of Guyana. They don't know the history. But listen, today we're actually, you know, celebrating the death anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. And PPP, I don't know, we are going to make some comparative analysis though when it comes to the PPP versus what this man would have done, because people need to know, you know, who is the true father. For the young people across Guyana who would not have seen any of this, who don't have a good understanding, as to where we are coming from. Because we are coming from something that is way better than what we're experiencing now. Okay, so instead of progressing, Mark, we would have regressed. Listen, when we talk about drainage and irrigation and these kind of things, to not execute these mandates, Mark, is to be ignorant. Okay, just flat out ignorant, because we know, especially when we're dealing with the coastline, that it is below sea level and there is no patch mark for drainage and irrigation. It is mandatory, it is needed. So when you have such a project that is mandatory and needed, you always have to make sure that you're executing. That's the first thing. Now I'm going to touch a little bit on Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, and I'll say this in my personal opinion: what an orator! This man could have flat out speak. Okay, there's no comparison between Lyndon Forbes Sampson and Barry Jack There's no comparison. It doesn't make sense even trying to do a comparison there. It's so far apart that it's not. Jack is not worthy of being mentioned in the same conversation. Okay, what I got from this short, statement that Mr. Lyndon Forbes, and listen, Mark, he was able to put everything into that statement, and it wasn't long and drawn out. Like you would have said, transparency. Okay, he spoke about the housing scheme in Mahaica. He spoke about the completion of the Berbice River Bridge. Yes, he spoke also of the vision of the Demerara Bridge. So this man always had a goal. He always had something on his plate that he wanted to accomplish, all in the for the betterment of Guyana. So today, when we look, we don't get that transparency. Oh, we want to borrow $61 billion from the oil resource fund. Okay, well, what are you guys going to do with it? No answer. That's not fair to the people. That's not fair to the people. Now, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham depicted what a leader, should be like. He had all the attributes necessary to execute as a leader. And what did he do? He used them. He used them to his advantage, and he used them to the advantage or to create advantages for the Guyanese people. And sometimes when you want to have an advantage, Mark, you have to make 2 steps backwards in order to make 10 forward. Hence the reason why sometimes when Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham would have pointed us in a direction, sometimes people holler and scream, but we needed to trust him more. And Mark, listen, I am saddened. I'm always going to be saddened that he died at such an early age, the age of 62, because had we had him around for another 10 to 15 years, I'm telling you, Guyana would have been in a much different position that it is in now. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you so much, dear Mr. Wayne Caesar, and good morning to all of you. I see we are reading some of your comments. P. Alicock, Yvette, Graham, Sharon James, Frank Bunbury, Annette Cummings. We are reading your comments. Somebody by the name of Iron, Aubrey Alicock, Forbes Meadows. Good morning to you. All of you folks who are watching us, who are listening to us, Anissa, Cece, and lots of folks. Good morning to all of you. We will be joined in a few minutes' time by Lurleen Nesta, Miss Lurleen Nesta. She's a national awardee and a recipient of a national award there. She's a former member of parliament, and she's very, very active on her social media page as well. She will join us in just a couple of minutes. But before that, I've noticed, Mr. Caesar, that people are asking for us to replay the speech that we just played. They want to hear it again. And listen carefully, guys. I know. And you will note the difference between what we have now, the Pacus we have now, compared to Forbes Burnham. And I say the Pacus because, when you listen to a Jack Deere, who is not a leader, is just a flat-foot hustler. And when you listen to Irfan Ali, who doesn't know his head from his toe, probably somebody wrote all of his exams or whatever school he claimed that he attended, you would note the difference. And even as we speak, Guyana is filled with quite a few soup drinkers and party hoppers, grasshoppers run from party to party for their own self-gains, hustlers. They are just that. You know of a few of them. And Burnham today might very well be turning in his grave because some people even close to him who we once thought were patriotic turn out to be just rank and file hustlers, flatfoot hustlers, and soup drinkers. Nevertheless, I don't want to get carried away. This is not the time and the program for that, but let's get right back to that speech made in 1979 on the 23rd of February by then President, the late President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham.
Comrades, fellow Guyanese, 9 years ago, we Guyanese made the final and decisive assertion of our political and psychological independence by completely severing the remaining constitutional links with the colonial power. For us, the coming into being of the Cooperative Republic was the logical culmination of the struggle for independence, initiated over 200 years ago by our national hero, Cuffy, at Magdalenenburg in Berbice. But, as I have always emphasized, political independence is not an end in itself. Rather, it represents an opportunity to create a society in which all citizens are assured of social and economic justice. the People's National Congress at all times recognized that the process of transforming the society, which process will be given new impetus and momentum with the promulgation later this year of the new Constitution, was not going to be an easy task, and that the path ahead would be strewn with many obstacles. The PNC, as the party in government, never attempted to delude the Guyanese people about the sacrifices which would be demanded of all of us as we moved in unison to free our country from poverty, want, hate, fear, and foreign domination. The process of nation building and societal transformation is never easy. You, for instance, in North America, would do well to acquaint yourselves with the hardships and privations which went into making the United States the world's richest and most powerful country today. At the moment in Guyana, we are going through a period of difficulty. But this is not peculiar to us, but is the common, unfortunate lot of most, if not all, of the non-oil producing developing countries. Indeed, even the developed countries, and many of you can personally attest to this, have not escaped the effects of the worldwide crisis. But for all the problems being experienced at home, and which you have most certainly heard about, development has not stagnated. For example, last year witnessed the initiation of massive ventures like the Tapakuma scheme, $103 million, the Mahaika-Maikoni-Abari scheme, $200 million, the Upper Demerara River Forestry Project, $76 million, and the Blackbush Polar Extension, $115 million. It was the year also of the completion of the Kanji Bridge and that dream of the Demerara River Bridge, which many of us had despaired of seeing in our lifetime. During this year, it is expected, among other things, that work will commence on the erection of a solvent plant for extracting oil from rice bran, and also that there will be the manufacture on a large commercial scale of byproducts like vinegar and yeast from molasses. Just a few days ago, your government released the Guyana Investment Code, which, as its name implies, sets out the guidelines for investing in Guyana. It is a document which all of you should scrutinize and popularize, and one which, by setting out clearly and unequivocally the government's policy in this area, should hopefully answer many questions and set clear parameters. Sure, we have had and will continue to have difficulties. And of course there was Jonestown. But we are confronting these issues and problems with a grit, determination, and intensity, which daily suggests that we shall overcome. Finally, let me assure you that your government considers you to be very much part of Guyana and welcomes you home. Indeed, invites you to join in the exciting, though demanding task of development and nation building. As we celebrate the 9th anniversary of the Cooperative Republic, I feel confident that you must realize that you have a motherland of which you can be proud, and which at all times offers you a hospitable and receptive embrace. Happy matrimony.
All right, Mr. Caesar, we heard that again. We heard it again. People can ask for it again and again and again. When you compare what we just heard there, um, transparency and a breakdown as to how your taxpayers' monies were spent, and the propaganda about Burnham being the richest man, one of the richest men in the world, with absolutely no evidence to substantiate even to this day. But what we do know and what we're seeing is how the PBP see these lagu bagus who are in office right now through questionable means, and how they're wasting and stealing taxpayers' monies. We see it every day, every single day. We see it. Good morning to all of you, Mr. Noor Mohammed. Salam alaikum to you, my brother, and I'm glad that all of you are have taken the time out to tune in. Mr. Caesar, even as we prepare, I'm looking at some of the comments. Uh, even as we prepare to wrap things up this morning, what are some of the other thoughts going through your mind there, sir?
Well, Mark, you see, what you would have just done, you would have just replayed that video again there. I mean, listening to the voice of Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham, you would have just replayed that whole message again. And when you listen to something once, you get your takeaways from it. But when you listen to it twice, you get another set of takeaways from it. So, Mark, when I listened to it the second time, what I got is the tone. The tone was excellent. It, coincided with the message. You know, Mr. Burnham spoke from his heart, and from his heart to his people. Okay. As a leader, that message was a message of care. Today we talk about caring government. Come on. We are way off. All right. What this man would have depicted and would have shown over his body of work is the kind of care, Mark, that we need to be seeing today. Okay. Everything he did, Mark, he did it in the interest of his people. Okay. He knew that he had a mandate to the people, and he executed flawlessly. Although sometimes we want to think that there was flaws, and maybe there were, but we need to reanalyze and we need to look deeper, because Mark, for a man to have these vision, to have this, would have had the visions that he would have had some years ago, and for those visions to still be relevant today, that is speaking a lot. Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham was truly and is truly the father of Guyana. Over to you.
One of the things that we heard from that speech there by President LFS Burnham was that he paid homage and give full respect, maximum respect to who started the struggle over 200 years ago. And basically said that the father of the nation there was Kofi, who started that struggle and ought to be given tremendous credit for where we are today. Burnham said that in 1979, February 23rd, in that speech. You heard it. 200 years ago, coffee. And so when folks pass around coffee, the square of the revolution, they must salute that man. Had it not been for coffee, Guyana would not have been the melting pot that it is today. Melting pot from an ethnic standpoint, it would not have been what it is today. Some people love to cuss coffee. Some people love to say all manner of derogatory things about coffee. But when they walk somewhere over opposite Burnham basketball court there, and they have the monument of a Mahatma Gandhi. For some people, Mahatma Gandhi means more in Guyana. For some people, Mahatma Gandhi means more than a coffee. They got to start. They got to start honoring their real heroes. And coffee is one of those heroes, and is a reason why Guyana is the way it is. That we have uh, ancestors from other parts of the world: India, Spain, China, so forth and so on. Mr. Caesar, I want to take us to a speech by Forbes Burnham about the Venezuelan intrusion on Guyanese territory and how President Burnham handled that situation. I recall as a young man, maybe after this speech, I can't recall the speech, but you've got to listen to it and to come to the realization how patriotic Burnham was compared to how unpatriotic the likes of Jack Dieo are. And specifically Jack Dieo, because Jack Dieo wanted to give away a piece of Venezuela to a piece of Guyana, sorry, to Venezuela. And this is how Burnham handled that situation back then.
At one point of Guyana's western border with Venezuela, the Renamo River flows into the Cuyuni River, and there is an island at this junction called Ankoko Island of about 2 to 3 square miles. According to the map in existence since 1904, the border runs roughly through the center of Ankoko Island from north to south, so that the western part of the island is Venezuelan and the eastern Guyanese. For some time, in fact during last month, a number of Venezuelans were crossing onto the Guyanese side and have since then been carrying out certain works on our territory. The report of this came to the notice of the government a few days ago only, and an inspection party consisting of senior officials and 2 senior police officers visited the island the day before yesterday, Wednesday the 12th of October. This party verified and confirmed the earlier report received through unofficial channels. In the opinion of the government, this intrusion by Venezuelans constitutes a breach of the Geneva Agreement entered into between the governments of the United Kingdom and Venezuela on the 17th of February 1966, to which agreement the government of Guyana is now a party. And today, I have sent a cable to Dr. Iribarren Borges, the Foreign Minister of Venezuela, strongly protesting the intrusion of Venezuelan personnel onto Guyanese territory and asking that immediate steps be taken by the government of Venezuela to ensure the immediate withdrawal of all such personnel. I have this morning informed the leader of the opposition of the situation and held discussions with him. Meanwhile, I await a reply from the Venezuelan government. I consider it my duty to inform the nation of this latest development and to assure you that every step is being taken to retain our territorial sovereignty by peaceful means. Your government proposes to abide by the terms of the Geneva Agreement and is hopeful that the government of Venezuela will do likewise. You are asked to remain calm and to await further information. Long live Guyana.
So, Mr. Caesar, you heard it there, how Burnham dealt with the situation there with the Venezuelans. You know, this is what you expect from a real leader, from a leader in dealing with crisis. Not what we're seeing right now, and not with Jack Day wanting to give away a piece of Guyana to Venezuela. We have good morning, sir.
Wish to share. Oh, I'm on, right?
Yes, you're on
Good
live.
morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Yes. I want to compliment you, Mark. James Rich. Yeah, James Richmond here.
Good
I
morning.
want to
Good, good, good,
let
good,
me move
good.
my
Thank
house.
you. Thank you, Mr. Richmond. James Richmond here. Yeah.
Thank you, Richmond. James Richmond here. Yes, Mark. So I want to compliment you on a great program in
We're
remembering.
still getting a feedback from your end, Mr. Richmond.
Okay, let me. We're still.
Yeah, if you move farther
We
away,
should be better
yeah.
now. We should be better now.
Yes.
Right. So let me repeat. I want to compliment on putting on such a great program, remembering the life and legacy of Lyndon Ford Sampson Burnham. And it's a fitting thing that you're doing 38 years after his passing at Georgetown Hospital. And that was a sad day for Guyana. I know that for a fact. I was there in the Georgetown Hospital lab in that new wing after being trained, sent for training by Fort Burnham, like he did for many Guyanese we sent across the world to train. He sent me in to be trained in lab pharmacy and X-ray at the University of Guyana. I previously I served under him on the prison guard for about 2 years. Then I was sent to be trained in lab pharmacy and X-ray, medical technology, radiology, and pharmacology. Now, so when he walked into the Georgetown Hospital on that day, that very sad day, he walked in. He walked in. His wife was there. Hamilton Green was there. Van West Charles was there. Hoyt was there, and a few other people. And I was in that lab, and I was called by Van West Charles. Dr. Van, he was the Minister of Health at that time, and was called to take blood sample, urine sample from the great leader, which I did. In another country, all these histories would have been written up and there. So and the fact is, this man believed in God. Everything that he did, he consulted with God. And so, because I know him well, than most people now, because back then a lot of people knew him better than me, but I get to know him very well.
Now, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, James. Can you describe what he was like when you were a presidential guard with Mr. Burnham? Describe those times for us.
Well, he was a very approachable person. A lot of people don't know that. They thought that he was this hard and fast guy you got to be afraid of. He loved engaging people in conversation, and I engaged with him on many occasions, sometime at the pool. I can remember Fidel Castro was there. They were in the pool, swimming, Nyerere, all those guys who visited Guyana. And he will talk with the guards, he will talk with them, he talk to everybody. When he goes, sometimes when we go out into Georgetown, into Bellefield and other parts of Guyana, the way he engaged with people, he showed the love and the respect he showed to each and every one. He was connected to the people of Guyana. And the narrative that was perpetuated on the Guyanese people is a false one. Burnham was a people's person. He was a person who put Guyana first. And along with Dr. Chevy Jake, and they were very good friends. I can remember being at Bellefield and Dr. Jackson just driving into the residence and going up and having conversations, and they're sitting and eating and talking and gaffing and having a good time. And then the next day they are out in Georgetown, and that's the political part of it, comes where they're representing their people or their party. But they were friends, and that's the kind of relationship he had with Chevy. He had with most people. I wouldn't say all people, but most people across the country. He knew people by name. If you when you went to New Amsterdam with him, he would call people out by name. He was connected to the people, and he was connected to the development of Guyana, Mark. He has developed. When I look back, I don't see in no era of any president of Guyana the kind of development this man did. He did it with not much money. He was frugal in using the resources that he had then, although the Western countries were against him and cut him back. They're talking about how doing that. They free up the money when I became president. That's why Hoyt was able to do something. Burnham was restricted financially. He had to use certain ways to achieve the things that he did, the housing schemes and all kind of stuff. He was a leader before he was such a great leader that I'm praying that our leaders now will take a page out, at least a page out of his book, and do things for Guyanese.
We got to pray
not
for
just
that.
for one set of people or one party people. Do it for Guyana, and then you put up the money now. There's no restrictions, right? And this is the man who started our CARICOM after the breakdown of the West Indies Federation. He's the one that called the leaders of the Caribbean and only Bird of Antigua and Barrow of Barbados respond, and Eric Williams of Trinidad afterwards responded to such a call. And he went to Nicholson Bay in Antigua, where they started CARICOM, and then later in Trinidad, CARICOM. And that's why one of my poems, I said, these three men are the father of the Caribbean. Burnham, non-aligned movement, he was on the forefront of everything in Guyana and the world back then. A little country whose leader had the gall and the audacity to stand up to the Western powers and show leadership in the world, that all the African leaders were attracted to him and to Guyana and Fidel Castro and all those guys. He was not just one of those namby-pamby leaders. That man was educated, but he was humble. He was dignified, and yet he showed compassion. And then this narrative that people point about, oh, he banned this and he banned that because of that. No, he was under financial pressure. He had to change the economy to depend on the resources of Guyana. That's why he tells you, feed, clothe, out the nation, use your own raw materials that you have to make different stuff. And Guyanese back then, the rice flour that they're talking about, all this stuff, it caused Guyanese to realize that they can produce. And that's what saved Guyana back then. And trust me, will save Guyana again, because this oil, my poem, Guyana Oozing Oil. Guyana is oozing oil, and the people are suffering. The real people who needs to get the benefit are not seeing that. And I was talking to Francis Kwame the other day because he loved back a few months ago talking about my poem Guyana Oozing Oil. So I said, look, I'm doing number 2, just to reinforce the fact that Guyana is oozing oil, but the poor woman in Kanji, the poor king cutter in Bushland, they are not seeing nothing. They're still in the same or worse. Why can't our leaders be more responsive to their people? Why can't they be more responsive? You go into office, go to better people's life. Don't go into office just to better yourself. And that's why I'm a Christian. My leader, Jesus, he uplifted people. And that's why I serve him. Our leaders in our countries around the world, Guyana, America, England, so we need to look to better the lives of people. And if Guyanese leaders, both in the government and the opposition, can just do something like that, even in the member of parliament, if they can just look to do better every day for Guyanese, Guyana will be a better place, Mark.
Thank you so much, Poet James Richmond. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your words. We appreciate your reflection on Forbes Burnham, President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, as we all celebrate his 38th death anniversary. Thank you so much, Mr. Richmond.
Unfortunately, that after I took his blood sample and his urine sample and did all the tests, I hope I'm not muted.
You're live, sir. Still live. Go ahead.
Right. And after I did that, and then he was moved into the operating room. The unfortunate thing, the people said all kind of things. But I was there, Mark. I was a young man. I was there, given this great opportunity in history to be there with a great leader, given the opportunity to take his blood sample, his urine sample. And then he went into the operating room and died on the operating room table. Because of what? Too much anesthesia. Nonsense in the country. But I was talking to Rudy Bishop a few years ago during the pandemic, when the pandemic was at its height, at an event in Brooklyn. And he said, James, man, I talked to Forbes. I tell him, don't do the operation in Guyana. Go to England, go to Cuba. He said, no, I'm bringing the Cuban. I'm imitating him now because I knew him. I know the way he speaks, right? Rudy said, Burnham said, no, I'm bringing the Cubans here. I have just established a new wing of them with new equipment. And
who's that? Who's that supposed to be, Mr. Richmond Burnham?
Supposed to be Forbes Burnham, boy. I'm
good,
trying.
good. Yeah. Sorry about that, but you're trying. You're right.
And so on. It was a sad day when you went into that operating room and didn't come out back just because he was given too much. 62 years old.
That's pretty young. Yeah, pretty young. I noticed that there's quickly before we go though, Mr. Richmond, there's a comment there by a G1 Bonduri, regular. He said, caller, can you confirm whether or not any foreign doctor or doctors flew in within 24 hours and left?
Let him check that out. Let him go and talk to his sources that he's talking to. I'm telling what I know.
I got you.
All
yeah,
right.
That's all right. It's just one of those ardent listeners, supporters right here of 107 is asking a question that came across quite innocuous. And so, but anything else, Mr. Caesar? You have any question for the Mr. Richmond, our caller?
Yeah, Mark, I actually do have a question for Mr. Richmond
Sure.
because my grandfather, Wainwright Prince von Alton Jr., was a special advisor to President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham and would have worked with him on the whole President College initiative. Also, would have been responsible for working with Mr. Burnham in establishing the Golden Grove Market, along with the Nabakalis Library, and would have worked very closely um, with Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham in getting the whole postal system, up and running correctly, as my grandfather was a post office a postmaster at the border post office, amongst other places. So he had grew to know Mr. Burnham very well, and would have become a close associate of Mr. Burnham. He would always have his ears. He would go out on the campaigns. I remember my grandfather went and tried to speak to the people of Edmore, and the people beat him up, Mark. And he went to Golden Grove and would have told the people at Golden Grove what happened. So, the people of Golden Grove went into Edmore, and you know what would have happened after that. But all of that to say, Mr. Richmond, I don't know if you would have made any trips with Mr. Burnham, being a presidential guard, when he would get on his horseback and he would ride from Belfield and he would come in to Golden Grove. Because, Mark, I was a little toddler at that time. And by the way, my father is and was the godson of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. So over to you, Mr. Richmond. I don't know if you would
we're getting a lot of the history of you, Mr. Wainwright Caesar. A lot of things our listeners never knew, they're now hearing. But let us hope that that Chetty Jagan Jr. is not hearing you, because we got the impression from my friend Chetty that Chetty Jagan Jr. was the only godson. Burnham had. Now you're confirming that who again was Burnham's godson?
Yes, my father, Wainwright Jr., yes, the son of Prince von Alton Jr., yes.
Got you. Mr. Richmond, anything else before you go, sir?
Yes, certainly. Yes, thank you, Mark.
Sure.
Thank you, Caesar. Burnham loved riding his horses and go along, and we the car, we trotting along the side. Of course, we went to Golden Grove and on the other side of Belfield, the Indian village there. I cannot remember the name right now. Even in Georgetown, when he leave the residence, we used to go into Border Market, and we used to be with him. Yes, he loved, and he would engage with people. I can tell you stories that this program don't have time to accommodate. He used those ways of communicating and getting to meet people. He wasn't a man who loved to walk a lot, so I guess that's the mode of transportation he chose when you want to visit certain villages and stuff like that, or in Georgetown moving around, right? And instead of going into the car and being driven by outriders and all kinds of stuff, I think he saw that as being a more modest way in reaching the people and communicating. Yes, we went into Golden Grove and all those villages many mornings.
Yep.
Along with Burnham, yeah.
Mr. Richmond, thank you though, but go ahead. I know you can go on for all day talking and reflecting.
Yeah, but I will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And look, trust me, man. I can remember leaving Guyana in '89 and going to Antigua. And I was given the opportunity, apart from working over there in the lab farms and so on, I was given the opportunity, Bobby Reese. Bobby Reese worked at the Guyana region, GBS. And he worked with Matthew Allen back there. And you guys will not know all those names. You're a little younger than me, right? And so...
Very younger than you.
Yes, you're 16. And so,
but we do, mind you, we do remember Matthew Allen and B.L. Crombie and all those guys. I don't know about Wayne, but I can speak for me. Wayne, do you know Matthew Allen and B.L. Crombie?
No, Mark.
You just know Basil Bradshaw.
I know Basil Bradshaw, yes.
And who was Pancho Carew?
Yes, MC Pancho Kuru, yes.
All right, but
And,
you,
and
yeah.
so Bobby Reese, he was doing the same pattern of the program that Matthew Allen did in Guyana. Man in the street, right? Right, the Man in the Street program in Guyana. He was doing it there, and somehow he involved me in the program a couple of times. And I can remember being one morning on that program, and the Prime Minister of Antigua, V.C. Bird Senior, called. And I won't try to imitate him because you won't understand the language.
Yeah, just imitate him. Let us see if we can understand.
And he called him, and he said, Bobby, me calling to talk to the James Richmond, the ex-Burnham girl. Burnham was my good friend. Intelligent man. and he went on like that. And so people respected Burnham. The leaders of the Caribbean and the world, even the United States and the United Kingdom, even the Queen, they respected him, and that is what he demanded for Guyana, in spite of what they do to him and to Guyana economically. And I can handle that.
Thank you so much, Mr.
He brought respect to Guyana.
Thank you so much. Maximum amount of respect he brought to Guyana, independent Guyana. But I did man in the street for a few months when I was working at GBC in the early 90s, 91 to 92, mid 1992. And man in the streets back then for me was you go out in the streets and you talk to people and then you return and you play whatever the people had to say. Are you saying when Bobby Reese and those guys and during your time did you were part of Man in the Streets, people called in?
Yeah, he was doing the same thing in Antigua when I got there in '89.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, but thanks for the
he called it talk to me.
Talk to
the
me.
Program was
talk to me, not Man in the Streets, but talk to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling in and talking to us here today, Mr. James Richmond. We appreciate your time. God bless you.
And and Caesar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Caesar, as we look to wrap up today's program, I didn't anticipate us being on for, at least I'm on for almost 3 hours now. Let me say that it's brought to you with the kind compliments of Linda's Restaurant in Brooklyn. Go out there and support Linda's Restaurant. Also, today is a big day for Linda. Go down there and you get all kinds of Guyanese dishes right there at Linda's Restaurant. And right across the street from Linda's Restaurant, you want a nice haircut, a nice hairdo, females. Because, gentlemen, you need your haircut. Well, everybody gets haircut these days. Go down to Exquisite Hair Palace right there in Brooklyn on Church Avenue between 53rd and 54th Streets. Lemon can go out there and get a haircut. Carry Doris with you to get her hair done. And Francine and the crew, you guys can head down there. And if you're looking for a lawyer, you got Shalon Washington. Give her a call. All matters. She would take care of that. All right. As we look now toward our closing remarks, let me not forget. Sorry, Mr. Caesar. We give Andrew's Supermarket there in Guyana a big plug. Go out there, those of you who are in Guyana, and give Andrew's Supermarket your support. As we look to wrap up today's program and reflecting on the 38th death anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Your closing remarks, please, Mr. Wainwright Caesar.
Yes. Mark, thank you very much for having me this morning. And listen, I was here for a worthy occasion, and it is relevant, Mark. And, you know, we should always gather at this time every year going forward, you know, to reflect and remember Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, who would have played an intricate part, a mammoth part when it comes to the development of Guyana and where Guyana stands today and stand as an independent and sovereign nation. So I am happy to would have had the opportunity, to be here with you today, to give my points and to reflect on this great man who I still look up to today. I recall when he used to come to my grandparents' house, and he used to come there and he used to have lunch and everything, man, because my grandmother, she was a great cook, man. And he would draw at the table with my grandfather and they would go over their strategies and everything. And we were toddlers and we would be running around in the house and he'll take us, one after the other, and he would put us on his lap and everything. So I would have been in touch with this great man. I would have had the opportunity to speak as a little kid with many of the bodyguards. They would come, and of course, the thing that we wanted to see was the gun always, because little children, you're always infatuated with guns. You're playing your little war break and you're doing all your little stuff. So yeah, so that was very, very good times. And of course, I didn't know, the magnitude of the person that was in our home at that time. I didn't know the magnitude of the person that we were dealing with. So I'm happy, that I was able to see this person on a personal level, and for a young kid I would say know the person on a personal level. So thank you for having me, Mark. And listen, to our listeners and viewers, man, today we would have celebrated the life again, although in remembrance, of a giant of a man when it
You
comes
did.
to that, and a giant of a leader, a genuine leader, an authentic leader, an honest leader, a leader that would have always put his people first, a caring leader. Thank you,
Mr.
Mark.
Caesar, we cannot go until we hear from someone who will speak passionately about Forbes Burnham, someone who was there and very close to Forbes Burnham, President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, Ms. Benny Remen. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Talk to us
Good
about
morning,
talk to us
How
about
are you?
talk to us about the Burnham that you knew. Talk to us.
Mark, thank you. And today we are celebrating the death anniversary of Burnham. I knew Burnham since I was 13 plus years. I come to work with Burnham and other leaders. But Diana, so far, the best president and leader upon the leader of the PNCR is LFS Burnham. They have no one else to match this man yet. 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 And I haven't seen. When this man speaks to the nation, the people craving to listen to him. Not only his voice, but distinct his words are clear. I am recently in that will tell you. I will go with my personal experience with him in a minute. I listened recently to many people who work with grown up. And one of them is kidnapping members who work very closely with the PPP and the PNP, more so grown up. And when he defined grown up, was never a racist. And this is how he said it. I could put my head on a block. Bob Burnham was never racist. He also defined the banning of variety of items, which the PPP and the Indians have crafted and discarded Burnham's name to say that he hated the Indians and he did it on purpose. He made the Indians rich because when those items is not banned, let me tell you, restricted. Restricted because of foreign exchange. However, the Indians started importing one item, they got rich. The poor Indians started to plant cassava, planting everything else.
they grow rich. And he didn't look it like that. He said, if you want, you will get rich, you will feed yourself, you will able to work on the soil. He encouraged every Guyanese. People were laughing at Burnham when he rode the horses and dropped the cassava stick. Let me tell you, my in-laws, our family had horses. So when they're talking about Burnham riding horses like the like the white people, like passing ordinary Guyanese people who could have afford and have big farming and big estates, they use horses, and our family did. Burnham was a man of the people. Burnham ain't got no people around him. He had intellect. He had people with caliber. He had people who are able to be identified as leaders, not like what we have now, who have false doctorates. They're making doctors look like stupid people out there. My husband was a specialist. You don't get certificates like that. Calling doctors. Burnham was a highly qualified lawyer. He even defended Janet Jagan, who was locked up. He was highly qualified. He was a man away of his time. He was a man with vision. They were scared of him because he was too smart. But he wasn't smart for himself or to gain for himself. He was there for the Guyanese people. He was there for all the people of Guyana. Not like the people now. Burnham didn't have money like the other people now. We have people who are in charge and they have oil, they have resources. And look, the backwardness of Guyana. Guyana will be in the history. We'll go down in history, the most corrupt country. And the Burnham, we didn't have Alan killing. 200 black people, children killed. We recently celebrated three young men who were more the Indian than. We had people from the Kaishon News. We had people look recently. Listen, when you look at the history of the PPP, Mr. Bencher and listeners, let me tell you, we should do a documentary on murdering, killing, what am I saying? That so much of wrong things, corruption, that's the word. Corruption in Guyana under the CPP government.
You know, if one of the things I want to ask you, and as we listen to you passionately speak about your knowledge, and you were very close to Forbes Burnham, you and your family, as an Indian family in Guyana during those times when Burnham was being depicted by some people as being racist and banning flour because he didn't like Indians. How did you feel about that propaganda, being of East Indian extraction?
I feel very bad because it's wrong. It was wrong. He did not ban flour out of spite of any Indians. And let me get this clear. If people are talking about Indian, let me tell you something. Black people make bread. They make food. They make all things out of bread to make a living. They used to put a basket on the head and go out there and sell. They make a living. So Indians do not stain Burnham name. You have stained him enough. It coming out clean to know that they are blaming him wrongfully. You are go to India. India use white flour. You go everywhere else. All of places use white flour. So as far as I'm concerned, I plant red dal in my land. Red dal mound. If y'all don't know what it is, they make the best dal. We make things so people cannot substitute. What happened in Cuba? Cuba was eating what they produced. So foreign exchange was killing us. People were fighting us. They fight Burnham. Burnham doesn't have did not have the resources as this government have. So listen, people, let me tell you this. Don't blame Burnham for that. Stop it blaming. Stop it. Burnham did not ban anything to spite Indians. I am an Indian. I came from a big Indian family, and I work among Indians. Y'all are scandalous. Y'all just because if I was a businessman, and don't think that y'all want to be a leader. And let me tell y'all, Guyana had the best black man son of this world, which all of us should appreciate. It's not who you are, not the color of your skin, but you are intelligent enough to lead a nation. And this nation had a leader there, had the executive president was Burnham, and he's the best president Ghana ever had. Ever had. You take that from me as far as I'm concerned. He is my leader, he is my president, and he will be there until I said I die. As far as I'm concerned, unless that president, yes, I haven't seen him because they are born yesterday. Then born yesterday, and that even when you don't sound allowed to know whichever one your child, you're lucky. Wanna make you something, and you go today and you at the date of it. Get anniversary to do what you did. I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to talk about it. But I have to tell you, Burnham is a classic president, classic man. People know history. Today we have technology where you can do your research. Mark, I want to thank you. Thank you before I forget that you are doing a marvelous job. You are there to educate these people. Some people have short memory, they have amnesia, and not only amnesia, but they conveniently are trying to forget and erase. But you cannot erase history. People like me will continue to remind you what a gentleman, what a scholar Burnham was. And we have to remind you people that if you want to accept it or not, you cannot erase it. He's a man with class. The world admire who Burnham was, man. The world admire. You don't go there, reach for paper, you got it in his head. You know, all the big words that people can't call, Burnham was an intellect. He can speak, he can write, he got knowledge, he was way ahead of his time, man. Anything where you want me to tell you about him, yes, and he respected Indians, he respect. He's a man. If he was a racist, would he have given the Indian
holidays,
the Hindu holidays? Would he have given the Muslim holidays? Let me tell you, even the Amerindians, he acknowledged them that they don't the money and the Timiri airport or put Chelly Jagan airport. They don't want to see these Amerindian people. They're treating them like hogwash. Amerindian people are being treated very low class people. It's time that we recognize those people. They are in our country, they're one of the largest also. PNC is large, PDP is large, Indian, and we have the Amerindian, we must recognize them. They're part of this nation. They were the first people here. Why are we look Mandela going there and force the people there? I was there, another law I'm speaking here, you can challenge me. You force the people to sign a document. You take them one by one in a room and force them to sign a document. You can pay $5 million to people. It is a negligence of the government. Then you had us exit sign.
we will, and we thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody passed an Indian lady and said she liked that bottom shirt. Thank you.
Yeah, they love your Burnham shirt. Thank you so much, Vinny, and give my regards to your beautiful friends right next to you. Tell them I say hi. Thank you.
I will.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right, Wayne, you heard Vinnie Raman. Has been there, and she's able to counter what some of the PPP folks or some of our Indian brothers and sisters would have to say, the negative vibes that some of them have, and even some not so, not just all Indians would see Burnham like that. There are lots of Indians, or Indian Guyanese brothers and sisters who embrace Burnham, who love Burnham for the type of leader that he was. And one of the things that I admire about him, which is what we don't see currently, is the family side. And people need to see family side of leaders. We just don't see it these days. Unfortunately, across the board, we just do not see it these days. Burnham and Viola, President Burnham and his uh, part of his family there. This is what we need to see from our leaders, the family side of leaders. And I oftentimes wonder why they hide the family side of themselves. We need to see more of this. Mr. Caesar, closing remarks from you again, sir. You heard Bini Raman there, her passionate speech. She was there also at the wreath laying ceremony earlier today at the Botanical Garden. Close off again, please.
Yeah, Mark, listen, the man continues to remain relevant today because of many of his views, many things that he would have implemented across Guyana in his time of leadership. His vision, Mark, and listen, it's interesting because when I try to think about this man and think about what he would have been thinking, Mark, I believe that Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham believed in his heart, right, that Guyana is not gonna continue to be no third or second world country under him. He wanted to take Guyana straight to the top. He wanted us to be so self-sufficient. And listen, I understand where he was going with this. This was and as Bibi would have said so eloquently, this was an intellect. This was a very, very intelligent man and a gentleman. Indeed, Mark, we would have listened to those speeches this morning. Okay, and we see what an orator Mr. Burnham was. And it just depicts, man, you know, the qualities, that we look for because, hey, we are still here and we are still relevant. And we would have seen excellent leadership in our lifetime. Though, Mark, we were young, we still remember, a lot of the things. And our parents would have edified us about such things. So, Mr. Burnham's vision, his accomplishments are still relevant today. And we turn and we look to the current government and the current leaders of Guyana to take a page out of his book. Look, Mark, all this history is laying right there. Why are these guys trying to lean on their own wisdom to lead Guyana? Because they're leading Guyana down the wrong road. Just go into the archives, Mark, just like you did. You were able to capture all these great speeches. You were basically able to capture a lot of the history of LFS Burnham in a nutshell this morning, and we were able to speak to that. The PPPC have a lot of money in their hand. They can get their researchers to go there and do the same, and try to copy it. It's still relevant today. It's not to say, hey, what Burnham was trying to implement is in the past. No, this man was before his time. Had Burnham been living today, Mark, he would have chewed up and spit out everyone. It's flat out a brilliant man. And listen, I know Miss BB would have said, listen, it's the greatest president she's ever seen. She don't see anybody else close. I don't like to rank presidents, Mark. That's not in my thing to really rank presidents. But LFS Burnham, I can't see anybody, being close to him, right? He had all the attributes. And there's a few of our past presidents that I can look at, and they do have some of those attributes. But there is no one, and Jagdio, I'm not speaking of you. Jagdio, I'm not speaking of you. Ali, I'm not speaking of you. If I'm going to talk about any PPPC president, I'm going to only mention Dr. Chedi Jagan. That would have had some of the attributes. Mark, I didn't say all of them. Mark, I did not.
I just because the lighting in my eyes too. Because
okay. He
Chetty
would
and
have had he would have had a relationship with Burnham, Chedi
but
Jagan, so
there have
he
been
would have some of those
serious
attributes.
flaws in terms of nation building. When,
Yes.
Yes. There's issues there to be debated, but Chedi and Burnham were very good friends. Chedi and was way better. I get your point than these Lagu Bagus, the Irfan Ali, the Jagdir. They are Lagu Bagus. That's who they are. Wayne, I've noticed a lot of our listeners people are now tuning in as well, but it's been over 3 hours. But you're finishing up your point when I give you that eye contact because of I do have on contact lens sometimes, right? So don't.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, like I would said, I would have seen some of these leaders who have some of those attributes of Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham, and one of the things I would have seen in our former president David Arthur Granger, he is a true gentleman. Okay, he's approachable. You can speak to him, and that's one of the attributes, one of the strong attributes of Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham. I remember when he would come through the streets, Golden Grove sideline, riding on that horse because he's coming to grandfather's house. That's what he will do. Circle by the market. He may come down President College Road. Unfortunately, my grandfather didn't live to see the completion of the President's College, but grandfather was still alive when it started. Yes.
Mr. Caesar, with that, we'll pull the curtains down.
Yes.
And the PPP destroyed education in Guyana for 23 years, destroyed electricity, they destroyed the culture, the Guyanese culture, they destroyed every single thing. And that is why Guyanese have to stand up and fight back politically, spiritually, against this wicked, demonic installed PPP regime. Mr. Caesar, as always, I thank you so much. I know you're tired. Yesterday, you guys did a great job there in Brooklyn, visiting exquisite Gear Palace, Linda's restaurant, and all these different things. We will be doing some more, hopefully, next Saturday. And for those who have business and businesses who want to have us, advertise their business, feel free to get in touch with us, get in touch with me, get in touch with Wayne Caesar, and we will definitely advertise your business. But for now, thanks a lot again, Wayne. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys. We have a program at 8 o'clock this evening, 8 o'clock, talking about the Anansi Web education, the village movements and African villages and so forth in Guyana, throughout Guyana. Wayne, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you so much, Mark, and to our listeners and viewers. Continue to enjoy your weekend and take some time to reflect on this great man, Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham.
Thank you so much, Mr. Caesar, again, and to all of you. Have a great Sunday. If you're celebrating your birthday, a happy birthday to you. My sister Sonia Benchop is celebrating her birth anniversary today. I'm told that I shouldn't be mentioning how old she is today, but happy birthday to my beautiful sister Sonia Benchop. Of course, she's married now, so you guys. Francine seemed to be busy on Van West Charles. Francine Cruz is busy on Van West Charles. We will touch on that in a subsequent program, but I'm reading your comment, Miss Francine Cruz. And to all of you, thank you all so much for being a part of our program this morning. It was an impromptu program, and so we just thought that it was necessary to talk a bit and lots about the contributions made, the tremendous contributions made by President Lyndon Forbes Samson Burnham. God bless you all, every single one of you, and see you guys tonight at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. sharp. Also, sorry, about 1 o'clock, we'll be live in Kingley Village on the west coast of Berbice with Lincoln Lewis and his crew out there to talk about the rich history of Kingley and the surrounding villages there at Kingley and the contributions made by folks like Kojo McPherson and others in the villages of Kingley, like I said, in Kingley and other surrounding villages. 1 o'clock this afternoon. But before we go, listen to this message, and you'll understand why people need to walk away from the PPP, to remove themselves from the PPP. The PPP is not a party that is patriotic for Guyana. They divide Guyana, and it has got to stop. And how can it be stopped? If all of us, every single one of us, regardless of your ethnic group, come together, hold hands, and decide to dash the PPP. The next elections, dash the PPP out of office with your votes. Do not vote for the PPP. Listen to this lady.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one.
So this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Comrades, fellow Guyanese, 9 years ago, we Guyanese made the final and decisive assertion of our political and psychological independence by completely severing the remaining constitutional links with the colonial power. For us, the coming into being of the Cooperative Republic was the logical culmination of the struggle for independence, initiated over 200 years ago by our national hero, Coffee, at Magdalenenberg in Berbice. But, as I have always emphasized, political independence is not an end in itself. Rather, it represents an opportunity to create a society in which all citizens are assured of social and economic justice. The People's National Congress at all times recognized that the process of transforming the society, which process will be given new impetus and momentum with the promulgation later this year of the new Constitution, was not going to be an easy task, and that the path ahead would be strewn with many obstacles. The PNC, as the party in government, never attempted to delude the Guyanese people about the sacrifices which would be demanded of all of us as we moved in unison to free our country from poverty, want, hate, fear, and foreign domination. The process of nation building and societal transformation is never easy. You, for instance, in North America, would do well to acquaint yourselves with the hardships and privations which went into making the United States the world's richest and most powerful country today. At the moment in Guyana, we are going through a period of difficulty. This is not peculiar to us, but is the common, unfortunate lot of most, if not all, of the non-oil producing developing countries. Indeed, even the developed countries, and many of you can personally attest to this, have not escaped the effects of the worldwide crisis. But for all the problems being experienced at home, and which you have most certainly heard about, development has not stagnated. For example, last year witnessed the initiation of massive ventures like the Tapakuma scheme, $103 million, the Mahaika-Maikoni-Abari scheme, $200 million, the Upper Demerara River Forestry Project, $76 million, and the Blackbush Polar Extension, $115 million. It was the year also of the completion of the Kanji Bridge and that dream of the Demerara River Bridge, which many of us had despaired of seeing in our lifetime. During this year, it is expected, among other things, that work will commence on the erection of a solvent plant for extracting oil from rice bran, and also that there will be the manufacture on a large commercial scale of byproducts like vinegar and yeast from molasses. Just a few days ago, your government released the Guyana Investment Code, which, as its name implies, sets out the guidelines for investing in Guyana. It is a document which all of you should scrutinize and popularize, and one which, by setting out clearly and unequivocally the government's policy in this area, should hopefully answer many questions and set clear parameters. Sure, we have had and will continue to have difficulties. And of course there was Jonestown. But we are confronting these issues and problems with a grit, determination, and intensity, which daily suggests that we shall overcome. Finally, let me assure you that your government considers you to be very much part of Guyana and welcomes you home. Indeed, invites you to join in the exciting, though demanding task of development and nation building. As we celebrate the 9th anniversary of the Cooperative Republic, I feel confident that you must realize that you have a motherland of which you can be proud, and which at all times offers you a hospitable and receptive embrace. Happy Mashramani.